Alrighty, well, welcome to this week's Tokwa Ask Us Anything. It's actually been a really busy week, and for Tesla in WA, it's going to be even more busy, or it is more busy, with a huge number of deliveries taking place just before the end of the quarter. So that's pretty exciting. Anyone that's sort of driven past the Osborne Park showroom today, and yesterday for that matter, could only help but see, well, basically, trucks and trucks and trucks full of Model 3s being disgorged into the service centre, which is a fantastic thing to see. It's awesome to see the population of Teslas ever increasing, and I dare say this year they're going to be doing that at an ever increasing rate.
We were actually talking today, Harold, that at this rate, the population of all the Teslas in WA will double in 2021.
It's actually, and you know, that's something that's even been said in black and white, because that's an awesome segue there, Pete, to a newspaper article that was actually in the West today.
I haven't had a chance to read it.
Well, you could even, if you like, look at it on screen. Sorry, I'm just struggling with this at the moment. Because there it is. Actually, I'll just forward the. Oh, that's not working very well at all. That one there, which was the actual main article, and it basically quoted someone from the Tesla Owners Club of Western Australia saying that.
Who would that be?
Oh, I can't remember. He said the club expected the number of Teslas on WA roads would double this year as demand for vehicles soared.
There's
So
a name here. There's a name here, Harold.
Yes, and we managed to get a Tesla Model, a rare Model S featured as well next to the well, extraordinarily rare Taycan. So yeah, that was a great article, basically saying, you know, demand is clearly increasing. People's appetite for EVs is far from being satiated, but unfortunately, compared to the rest of the world, we're just not getting the government impetus to get these things moved along. But you know, that's just one of those things. But clearly,
I think I recognise that lovely lady standing next to Model S too.
Yes, that's my lovely wife. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the West did want to have some balance, I guess, some gender equality. So clearly, they knew there would be a bloke next to the Porsche, and they asked for a lady next to a Tesla. So there you go. Now, in other news, let's see. We're going to jump around a little bit. I guess one of the latest news items, which is a bit interesting. Well, it is what it is Tesla is now accepting Bitcoin for car purchases in the US. Which, I guess if you've got a few Bitcoins, you can buy a brand new car with it. But perhaps if Bitcoin keeps appreciating, you can hold on to those coins and wait till later to pay for it, and maybe use less of them. But
it could be a good savings plan for a Tesla.
Yes, and I guess another segue to that is for people that have ordered, which I don't think would be many, but people who have ordered the Model S Plaid Plus. Tesla have announced in further news that they have delayed the expected delivery of those vehicles until 2022. So yes, Pete, perhaps if you hold on to your few Bitcoins, they could rub together and multiply, and that Plaid Plus Model S might only be 1 or 2 or 3 Bitcoins, which would be pretty nice. That'd be awesome.
Well, they have, as you said, they've pushed out the timeline for the Plaid S or the Plaid Plus S.
Yep.
but they've increased the cost by about $10,000 as well, US. So
yes,
so yeah, perhaps that's why they've delayed it, to give you a bit more time to save up for it. Give Bitcoin a bit more time to appreciate.
yes, indeed. Yes, I guess there's been a lot of speculation as to why this might have happened, whether it was a demand thing, whether it's the 4680 battery cells. Perhaps they're shifting that low volume product in favor, well, delaying it in favor of getting more and more 4680s. Well, I guess at the moment, the great urgency is to Berlin, because the Model Y was always going to be the 4680s. And that is due to commence production in July or August. That was also news confirmed by a German official, saying that the plans were July or August at the latest to commence production, which is pretty exciting for Europe as a whole, because they, like us, have been devoid of Model Ys since they were announced. And
it might.
Go on, Pete.
I was just going to say, it might be also because they're still fairly battery constrained, and the Plaid S Plus is going to have at least 100 kilowatt hours.
Yes.
If not more.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's probably not the best use of your batteries if you're constrained.
Yes. Although I guess if the price is higher, if it's a higher margin car, maybe you could argue it the other way. But I guess that's the thing, isn't it? It depends on priorities. And then perhaps Tesla really needs to expend more effort on getting the new Model Y, well, and even the Cybertruck for that matter, up and running. And really I guess, the Plaid Plus is really the dessert. It's a bit like the Roadster. Well, in fact, it drives like the Roadster was announced, as in it's got the performance of the Roadster. So perhaps it's really a bit of a lower priority item.
Yeah, because you could get 2 Model Ys or 2 Model 3s standard range. I know the Model Y standard range isn't really available anymore, but at least the Model 3 standard range, you could get 2 of those for 1 Plaid Plus.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of battery capacity.
Well, in fact, the Plaid Plus, I think, was announced as about 800 kilometers range. So that's got to really probably be a 130, 40 kilowatt hour pack, if anything.
Yeah.
So, yes, it'll be interesting. In more European news, Tesla has also announced that they're to close the Tilburg assembly plant. Now, we're obviously not that familiar with that plant, but basically what Tesla did was it was effectively constructed and used as, well, I wouldn't call it a tax dodge, but that's what it was really. It was to minimize, I think there's an import tariff on certain value cars. So what Tesla did for the Model S, actually, I think it's only the Model S on reflection. But anyway, what they would do is they would fully assemble the cars at Fremont, and then they would actually remove, I think it was the front or the rear motor, it might have been the rear motor, and they would basically have a temporary axle and jockey wheels put on it. They would then stack them in sea containers, sort of at angles, like sort of 45-degree angle, and they would stack, I think there were 3 in a sea container or 4. They would then ship those containers to Tilburg in the Netherlands, and they would then fit the drive unit. They would call them sliders. So initially they'd pull them out of the container and they would slide around on to like jockey wheels. They would then fit the rear drive unit, and also do the commissioning for autopilot or the cameras and configuration. They'd also do final paint checks and things like that, and also do a final test drive, which was actually on an internal test track, which was super interesting. I think the record speed they attained was 152 kilometers per hour. And the thing is, you've got to judge it really well, because at the end of the track is a concrete wall, like solid. So if you mistimed your braking, you were just going to go through that wall. So yeah, basically it was effectively a tax minimization arrangement. And now because of the new refreshed Model S and X, they've decided to stop doing that. And in fact, they had to stop anyway because there's no supply of S's and X's, new ones in Europe as in Australia either. So there was really nothing to do. So apparently what they're going to do is they may still maintain the facility, but it will no longer be doing final assembly, if you want to call it that, of the Model S, which is just an end of an era, really. Now,
Harold, before you go on to your next item,
yes.
Can I just really interrupt? I've promised myself that I've got to raise this fairly early in the show. So I mentioned Ashley,
Yes.
who's part of the Tesla Owners Club last week.
Big shout out to Ashley.
He's been absolutely, he's been doing really well. He's got 2 more rounds of his chemo to go, and then he's going to see if it's worked and if he'll be okay from there on. So thoughts with him. And the reason why I wanted to give it a big shout out is I got a text message from him saying that he noticed that I mentioned him on last week's episode. Now, I mentioned him just before we finished up, and that was a 3.5-hour episode. So he's actually watched that, so hopefully in digestible half-hourly blocks. But as you said, a very big shout out to Ashley for watching this.
I've got to say, Ashley, if you make a full recovery, we're claiming it, as the dulcet tones of these videos are absolutely curing what you have, and we're going to claim it.
It's the X factor.
Absolutely. And since we're shouting out, we'll do a shout out to Damon, who we do know actually only watches us in small chunks because that's all he can bear. Otherwise, it would send him spare. But yes, that's great. Thanks for that, Pete. Yeah, big shout out to Ash and Damon. Joe, who's lurking in the background while the kids are getting to sleep. No doubt they should be almost asleep by now that we've started.
And the techno king of Tesla as well.
Oh dear, excellent. Yeah, thanks for that, Pete. No, that's awesome. Now, something not quite related to Tesla, although it sort of is obliquely, is that I saw that Porsche are now offering a free software update to reduce its charging rate of its Taycan down from 270 kilowatts to 200 kilowatts. Couple of things, interesting quirks here is, unlike Tesla who do over-the-air updates, as we all know, or if you're a new Tesla owner, you'll soon find out that, every few weeks you'll get an update. Sometimes it won't be anything sort of fabulous. It'll just be minor bug fixes and other things. But other times you'll get some pretty big updates. And Tesla have revised their user interface several times over the years, and they can be quite dramatic changes. So that's pretty awesome. But Porsche, they don't do the over-the-air updates. They've offered that if you're prepared to take your car to the dealer, they will then install the update for free. But what's interesting is they've decided to offer a charge rate reduction. One of the big things that Porsche did claim was that they had the quickest charging car in the world, which was going to use the ultra fast DC chargers, 350 kilowatt class chargers. Well, as it turns out, they only really charged about 270 kilowatts, and now they're offering 200. Now, if you compare that to a Model 3 long range and performance, they can charge it up to 250 kilowatts at the version 3 superchargers. Now, what Porsche have said is, they said they've actually done this in response to requests from some of their owners who want to look after their batteries a bit better and give them a longer life. Because obviously the harder you charge these things, the more degradation you can cause the batteries. So it's an interesting backward step. Yes,
can't
please.
can't the Porsche owners adjust the charging rate? So we can obviously adjust the amperage.
No, not in DC. No, DC land you can't.
Oh, DC,
So,
of course,
yep.
DC. Yes.
So fast DC, no one's got control.
No, silly question. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, not also the question. No, it's completely legitimate. So for people that are new to the cars, you can reduce the charge rate at AC charging locations. Usually you wouldn't want to, because most places where you charge using a proper charger, the charger will charge your car as hard as it can. And the constraint on that with the charger is what power supply it has. But there might be times when perhaps you, say your car is half empty and you want to fill it up, but you don't want to sort of delay the start of charging. You could reduce the current going into it, and there's a slider on your charge screen, so you just hit set charge. Oh, sorry, there's a thing that has current amps. You can reduce it, and as you reduce it, you'll see that the time remaining to fill the car or to charge it to the level you've specified changes. So say if it's half full and you go to a standard charger, it might say time to charge 3 hours. So if you reduce the charge rate, it'll then say time to charge 6 hours or 8 hours or 10 hours. So there might be a reason why you might want to do that. But when it's a fast DC charger, there is no control. The car will tell the charger what to do within the parameters of what the charger can achieve. But anyway, it sort of then knocks Porsche, well, one of its more interesting sort of features or better features, it's sort of knocked that down in value a bit now, because I think effectively Porsche are saying, well, it's probably a good idea to charge your cars at no faster than 200 kilowatts, which is now actually less than Tesla. And mind you, this is on their 800 volt pack, which has other interesting consequences to charging infrastructure. So with Tesla's version 3 supercharger, you can charge a Model 3 at 250 kilowatts using the standard superchargers, version 3 superchargers. The Porsches, to get their high charging rate, you have to actually use the ultra fast DC chargers, which have the 800 volts capacity. And that sort of means that the cost is almost double for those chargers to install, because they need the higher power electronics that no other cars can use currently. And there are none really that close on the horizon. But anyway, that's a little bit of news from Porsche that's sort of really proving that what Tesla are doing is pretty much on the ball. You know, 250 kilowatts or a bit less is the way to go. Now, one of the last things we've got is a bit of bad news for those people who have got reservations for the Tesla Semi. Well, not really bad news, but it's potentially bad news. And that is that in Australia, we have a regulation that says that trucks can only be 2.5 meters wide. In Europe, they have a regulation that they can be 2.55 meters. And in the States, they can be 2.6. Now, the Tesla Semi is in the, well, they call it the 2.6 meter
between
class.
two. They've got two versions. One's 2.3, the other one's 2.5. Yep.
It's 2.55. So what Tesla and other manufacturers are doing is lobbying the Australian authorities to increase that width to 2.55. Well, Tesla wants 2.55, so the Semi will fit. And there's a couple of other companies that want 2.6, so that way you don't have to have a special Australian class truck. Now, obviously, as far as Tesla's concerned, 2.55 or 2.6 will suffice. 2.55 gets you standard with Europeans. And obviously 2.6 would be ideal, because then you can basically import anything. So let's hope that, and I forget what the authority was, but they've admitted that those regulations are a bit outdated and should be looked at. And after all, we're only looking at 50 millimeters in width, so it's not a lot. But
they're arguing safety as one of the reasons in that Driven article that Bridie wrote, which I thought was a good article. But yeah, surely, you know, that much is not going to, the Tesla trucks will be the safest trucks on the road, no doubt. So surely they will outweigh any loss of safety that may come from the, from the 5 centimetres.
Yeah, exactly, precisely. Yes, and I mean, given that Europe, which is famously rules-based and they've got more directives and regulations than anywhere else on the planet. If they're happy with 2.55 on roads that are much skinnier than ours on average,
True.
then
Absolutely.
you've got to say that, Australia hopefully will fall in line. I think they are re-looking at this in the middle of the year. I think it was June or May. So yeah, let's hope that, the right thing happens. Bearing in mind, of course, for us, it won't matter for at least the next 12 months because, Tesla haven't yet gone into production of the Semi. Although I think there are murmurs that they are looking at doing that towards the end of this year or later this year, starting production. So, the Semi in Australia would just be awesome. There's no need for a left-hand, right-hand drive version because it's got a center seating position, which is ideal. So there's really very little changes or localization that you need to do. Although I think there might be an extra camera on the curb side, I think, or the inside. I'm not exactly sure, but that's easy to swap over anyway.
This could be the first model that Australia could potentially get at the same time as the US. There'd be no, or as other international markets, other left-hand drive markets, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, wouldn't that be a marvelous thing, for that to occur? Now I've got
the Semi could get here before the Cybertruck, though.
Oh. Yeah, yes.
Now you're thinking I should order a Semi instead.
Well, the Semi's got pretty good performance. Although I think it's 0 to 105 seconds if it's unloaded. It's not too bad. Yeah, I don't know. I do actually.
It's not that expensive either, isn't it? Starts at about 150, 120,000 US, something like that.
Something like that. Yes, yes. It is more expensive than Cybertruck, but it's certainly got a lot more street presence or road presence. That's for sure. Takes a while to charge though, with the big batteries.
Well, Tesla's talking about this mega charging network specifically for the Semi. So,
well, I do believe that there certainly are companies in Australia that have reserved the Semi here. So yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens. It will be quite interesting. Now, one last bit of news is that the Tokeva Green Machine placed 5th at the Pemberton rally meetup. I think it was last weekend, which is pretty good because this is in the open category.
That's fantastic.
What I've actually got here is the one of the video snippets, clips of one of these stages. Just a language warning for anyone at home. You'll see why.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Care, cold brakes, 3 right at T and 7 right late over crest. Straight 150. 10 right 50. Care, 8 right long over brow, 8 left 50. Care, 6 left becomes 8 into 6, becomes 8 over the brow. Straight 100, brow 57 right. And 8 left over brow 50. 7 right and caution 6 left over brow. Tightens, it's a 6 that tightens. Dips into 5 right, slippy bridge. 6 right, straight 50. 8 right hug into 4 left over, opens long over brow. 9 right, hug, 50, care 7 left, it's a care 7 left, straight to 150 over the brow, 7 right short, straight to 700 with a speed warning. We're at 160, 70, 80, you're doing a brow 3 right at T, 190, it's 230 from these blue posts, we're at 202, 206. It's a 8 left on brow, downhill 150, care, 6 left downhill, it's a 6 left downhill 100, fast brow middle 100 crest and 9 left trust 150, the 9 left trust 150, 188, 189, 190, 203, and back it off at 6. Sorry, I shouldn't have sworn, but who were the gravel drivers? Yeah. Jesus. There was one corner that hadn't been cut. Well done, you. We're just going to say gravel everywhere. Five.
There you go. So Helen's a brave lady, being the, and that's Jürgen's wife, being the navigator. But yeah, it's certainly not pleasant coming onto gravel on a corner. So hence her quite appropriate commentary. But well done to the Tokiva team. You know, basically that car beat, you know, $750,000 Porsches and others. So yeah, great result.
It's basically a factory car. The only modifications are the suspension, the high temperature brake fluid, you know, larger discs. Sorry, same discs, but racing brakes. Yep. And the cage and the harness and the bucket seat, which you just have to have for safety. So, yeah. But yeah, factory engine. Sorry, no engine. Factory motor.
Actually, that reminds me too. With the Refresh Model S, they've had some photos leaked of the main screen, and one of them features a button or a switch that is described as drag strip mode.
Correct.
So effectively, that's like a launch mode, which is sort of interesting. And there's even like instructions. There's a little instruction button next to it, so you can know what to do. But it's probably similar to launch mode in the S's and X's, where you've got to, I think you put the brake on and then you put your accelerator flat to the floor, and all you do is you just release the brake and then it just goes, which is pretty cool.
One of the other updates is version 11 of the UI.
Yep.
Was it shift mode, or where you basically don't have to select the gears, where the car does it for you? So it works out whether you need to be in reverse or going forward, and selects the appropriate gear, and obviously no indicators either.
And there's some speculation that since it's such a, this is actually an option that's on the main screen, on the control screen, for you to invoke this or to revoke it. It's something that could come to all cars. So even Model 3s, even though you have got a shift lever, you could choose, and Tesla could choose to offer this as a feature, to have it infer what it thinks you should be in when you start the car, or put your foot on the brake, basically, which could be quite interesting. But you could always just turn it off and just revert to your normal standard levers, gear shifter.
Yeah, but in the S and the X, there won't be any stalks.
No, no. But there will be buttons you can press to override on the touchscreen.
On the on the steering wheel as well.
Oh, sorry, yeah, and on the
for the indicators. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yep.
Actually, Harold, if I may, while we're talking about Torkiva and Jürgen, so the driver there was Jürgen, and his wife was the co-pilot, the navigator, Helen. So both of them are going to be attending our TOCWA, Tesla Owners Club of WA, electric go-karts event on the 2nd of May. So Harold has sent out an email to all members. I think it was sent out on the 15th of March, I think. So if you've missed it or if you haven't seen it, look, it should be under, you can search under Power Play. Power Play as in one word, and it should come up. Alternatively, have a look at your emails on the 15th of March. And yeah, so Jürgen's going to come. So if you want to have a, Nigel, I'm looking at you, and Richard, I'm looking at you too. If you want to have a crack against Jürgen, see how you go against him, we'll do some.
I don't think I'm going to be coming purely because I've got arthritis in the neck. I've had 3 fusions, and hammering it around there, I'm already in a lot of pain every day when I get up. So I don't think it's going to be conducive to a nice feeling neck.
Oh yeah, that's fair enough. I'm sorry to hear it, Nigel. I genuinely am.
It's not good enough, Nigel. I think you should just need to load up with ketamine and you'll be all right. Just toughen up, lad. You know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, or not.
Yeah, no, I don't think so, somehow. I mean, I'd love to do it. I really would, but I can't ride motorbikes any longer. And I can't go too crazy. I've had to give up sports that I love because I'm just in so much pain.
Well, what you can do too, and you're more than welcome to do this, is obviously spectators are free. So we're still gonna, there's gonna be many of us that won't be racing, but you know, we'll be vicariously enjoying other people going around. And
I'm not sure I can afford that either.
But it's for free.
Yeah, I know. I can't afford that.
And what will be interesting as you race around, the times get displayed on the big screen next to the names. So you'll be able to see, you know, Jürgen's time and everyone else's time. So I'm sure that will provide for a lot of entertaining commentary. Yeah, and Jürgen has, you know, kindly offered to obviously, you know, be there. And, you know, Jürgen's fantastic, as many of you guys, you know, that have met him would attest. You know, he's more than happy to share his knowledge and try and sort of give helpful tips as to how to best go around the circuit, etc., and what to do and how to drive an EV. So, yeah, no, that should be really interesting. 2nd of May, more than half the tickets have sold now. Yes. I think, Harold, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, yeah, we're about halfway. So if you want to avoid disappointment, just grab that email that was sent on the 18th. What I will do is, for new members that joined after the email was sent, I will send out, I'll basically resend the original email with a little bit of extra stuff on it over the next day or two. So,
so far we've only opened it to TOCWA members. If you know anyone that's interested in joining TOCWA, or if you haven't paid your membership yet, the group discount that we've negotiated, which is $20, basically pays for an annual TOCWA membership. Yeah, if we don't sell out, which I'm sure we will sooner or later, but if in case we don't sell out, we'll open it to maybe others in the Facebook group. And but yeah, the numbers are limited just purely because of the size of the venue. So we've limited it to 48, I think.
Yes. Yep.
Harold, Gilbert George here. I'm a new member.
Sorry, I was just about to welcome you, and excuse my rudeness. I was looking at you several times, thinking as soon as we get this bit done, I'll introduce you and welcome you as a new member.
No,
and yes,
and that's not good enough, Harold. You can't blame a stiff neck for that.
Sorry, Gilbert.
I actually had a question. One comment and the question. One is, I have a battery and a solar system at my holiday house, and I use that slider in on the charging screen to make sure I don't take any any electricity from the grid. It comes out of my battery and directly off the solar panels, and I find it very useful for that purpose. But the other thing is, I guess the rally segment reminded me of it, is a couple of times. I have a Tesla Model S I bought in November of last year, so it's the dual motor. It's slightly faster, I think, than the old Tesla I had, the old Model S I had, and better range. But I noticed when I plant my foot, which of course I shouldn't do, but occasionally the temptation is too great. There's quite a strong pull to the left, and maybe I should go back to Tesla and ask them about that. But it's twice I've tried this now, and both times there's quite a noticeable and strong pull to the left, just as it's accelerating. So
you might want to check your wheel alignment.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Wheel alignment and tyres, and just take it to a tyre power. So get them to check. Yeah, wheel alignment, absolutely, but make sure your wheels are balanced, and get them to check your tyre tread as well while they're at it.
Yes. It's only a few thousand K, but I did actually get a puncture which wrecked the tyre, and so I have got one rogue tyre in, compared with the original set that came. So it's good advice. I'll go and talk to Tyre Power. Thanks for that.
According to the manual, Tesla recommends rotating the tyres every 10,000 kilometres.
Yeah.
That's on the Model 3. Would that be right, Harold, for a Model S and a Model X as well?
Yeah, no, Model X you can't, because the Model X is
yes, two different wheel sizes.
Front to back have different wheel sizes, but the Model S and 3 have the same sizes.
Yeah.
So they can go front to back. You can't go left to right, because some of the treads are directional, so you can't actually drive them the wrong way around.
Okay.
But also, Gilbert, what you could do is, if it's pulling, you could, if you like, because the car is fairly new, make a service booking and ask the question.
Yep.
Because they may, I think,
That's a good idea, actually.
I'm not completely certain, but I know they're definitely planning to have wheel alignment facilities at the service centre if they haven't already.
Okay.
So
they have, because they check mine.
Okay.
Oh, cool. So they do. Great.
Yeah.
And I do know they actually have tyres. They have stock of tyres.
Right.
So yeah, definitely try that first, Gilbert, perhaps, because they may actually say, look, yeah, we'll just fix it up for you because it's only done 3,000 Ks.
Yep. Thanks.
Possibly.
Thank you. Good.
And you can just do that on your app, as you probably know.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Now, some questions. David, you've got a couple of questions that I already know what you're going to ask me, but I'll just pretend I don't, and you can just ask me anyway.
I thought it was only fair to give you notice in case the questions were difficult. I'm sure they're not. I went down to Nanup last week with a couple of friends, and Nanup's a great place. It's got a free DC charger. I don't know what it puts in, but something like 250 kilometers an hour or whatever that translates to.
Yep.
But one of my friends is a little bit deaf and couldn't hear the GPS lady telling him when to turn right and left and what have you.
Yes.
So firstly, I wondered if there's a way of increasing the volume of that.
Yes. So okay. So initially, when you're navigating to a destination, you'll see where the navigate button is or where the instructions are. There's like a little settings wheel, like a toothed wheel. If you press on that, that'll show you some settings for navigation. And one of those settings is the volume of the narrator, narrator, which can be slid to the right to be maximum volume, or you can actually mute it, because some people don't enjoy the instructions and just mute it. So you can either mute or adjust the volume. The only caveat there is that once you hit the maximum volume, if that's not loud enough, there's nothing much you can do. I don't actually think that increasing your radio volume will actually help, because you've got that relativity between, you know, the audio source and the narration of the navigation instructions. But yeah,
Harold,
yes.
when the person is actually giving you the directions, you can adjust the volume wheel on the steering wheel, and what that does changes the volume of the current active thing. So if you're in a telephone call, you can adjust the volume of the telephone call, and it doesn't affect the radio. If you've got the radio playing, it'll adjust the radio volume. If whilst they're speaking, you should be able to adjust the thing. If they're not speaking, it won't do anything. They actually have to be an active thing, and then that'll do it. Because I've gone, oh, I don't like that, and I just hit the button while they're speaking and turn them off.
Yeah, it's like a contextual feature similar to what the iPhone has. So yeah, if you wanted to adjust the ring on an iPhone, actually, I don't know if you can do that anymore. You used to be able to do it. Now, if you press a volume button, it actually mutes the sound of the call. Doesn't increase it, but yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. I'll try that tomorrow or as soon as possible.
Yep.
The other one I'm a little bit embarrassed about asking after having seen that video on how fast you should drive around country lanes. Once again, one of the other drivers wanted to lower the cruise control speed from the 110 down to about 80 or 90. We were going through some beautiful countryside at the time, and I can quite see his point, but I would have just had it at 110, but never mind. He wasn't used to the car or that used to the car. So how do I lower the cruise control speed when the speed limit for that area is say 110?
You use the right scroll button and scroll it down. And if you do it slowly, it goes down by 1 or up by 1 if you're turning it up. And if you spin it, it'll go down by 5. So you hit it and zap, and it goes down by 5. So I use that all the time. So when you're coming into an area, because normally the camera doesn't pick up the speed limit until you've passed it, and you're going from 110 into an 80 zone, I'm usually hitting the right scroll button down to take it 110, 105, 100, 95, 90, 85.
Oh, that's good, because I've been knocking off the cruise control and then resetting it once you've gone through the lower speed limit sign.
Yeah, so for adjusting the volume and adjusting your speed, you don't need to take your hands off the steering wheel. You've got 2 scroll wheels.
Great. Okay.
And actually, David, there's a second function to that right scroll wheel, which is to do with the cruise control as well. So it's the cruise control in the Tesla is adaptive. So it will adapt the speed to the car that's in front of you.
Yeah,
but you can actually set the car length or the distance from the car in front of you with that right scroll wheel. So if you push it to the right, I think it increases it. It's a gauge of 1 to 7, I think. And if you push it to the left, it decreases the natural distance, the minimum distance that it will keep from the car in front.
I think it's the other way around.
Is it? Okay.
Right, it
I'm
goes
not
down
sure.
3, 2, 1. Left, it goes 1, 2, 3.
Harold might be able to remind me. Is that only appropriate to the Model 3s though?
Yes.
Because I don't remember that
Yes.
scroll wheel
Richard, yep,
working like that on the S.
No, Model 3 only, and Model Y for that matter, but not for the S's and X's. They do it a different way, which they have their own dedicated stalk, and there's a rotary part of that stalk, which is the actual autopilot stalk, and that's done completely differently. But for the majority of
that's how I do it. So, yeah.
Tesla owners in WA with Model 3s, it's just as was described. Now, what I should do...
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was a Model S we were talking about.
Yep. Now, just as much as I rudely failed to welcome Gilbert, I now need to welcome Chris, who is one of our newest members. So welcome, Chris.
Yeah, g'day. How you going?
Very good. So what car have you got there, Chris?
Well, it just arrived today, and it's a Model 3 Performance that I picked up on the used market. in Victoria,
Oh,
and
right.
yeah, it got delivered today. So I'm very pleased. It's unregistered at this point, so I have to get it inspected tomorrow, and then the registration will follow.
Awesome. That's pretty exciting.
It is for me at least.
So have you actually seen it yet?
Oh, it's in the garage. Yeah, it's been
cool.
delivered
Yep.
to my door
Yep.
by coincidence today. So yeah, I'm taking it over. Don't know if they take it over the pits as they used to in the old days, but it's getting
Yes.
inspected tomorrow, and then I can get it registered.
Yeah, and
So
if they
Chris-
find an oil leak, get your money back.
Hang on a moment.
And, if they find an oil leak, you probably won't get the performance you were expecting either.
No.
Chris, I was going to ask, did you get that through Tesla, or was that just on the secondary market? Oh, through.
Yeah, no, it was not from the Tesla inventory. It was through the auctioneers, Pickles. They had an auction.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay.
In February. Yeah, so I got it through them.
Yeah, right. Do you mind me asking a rude question? So, number one, how many kilometres has it done? And number two, how much did you pay for it? You don't feel like you have to answer that, by the way.
Sure. No, it's about 30k, so it's done quite a lot in its relatively short life because it's a 2019 model. So it was the high 80s that I paid for it.
Yeah, right. Well, that's a good price. I think that's a fair price.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking for a long time on car sales, and most of them on the Eastern Seaboard were 90 plus.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple here, but they're over 100, I think, in the performance spec.
I've done 36,500 Ks since January last year, but I like driving my car.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll be doing the same, I think.
I've done about 38,000, but that was since November of 2019. So, But yeah, I must admit, I've driven it a few extra kilometres, especially when I first had it, for no other reason, but because I was looking for excuses to drive the car.
Yeah, well, I back in 2018, I got my car in early 2017. In November 2018, I was driving northwards, sort of north of the river, and I was looking for a supercharger, and I decided to just keep driving until I found one. So I had to go to Broome, Darwin, and then finally found one in Brisbane. So I don't want to brag, but I've done 167,000 Ks in mine in 4 years. And a bit like Pete, I sort of drive home the long way everywhere. Sometimes a very long way.
The scenic route around Australia.
Well, I figured, what's that saying? If you're in a maze, you just put your left hand on the wall and you keep going, keep walking, and you'll eventually get out. Well, I figured if I kept the coast to my left, I'd eventually come back to where I started. And I guess 19 days later, I did.
Wow.
But anyway.
And we actually have another member of Tokwa that's done 220,000 on his Model S.
Yes, Rob Dean.
Yep. Absolutely.
Indeed. That's in a 2015 Model S. So they're definitely long-lived cars. So the 30,000 Ks that your car's got, Chris, is neither here nor there. I can tell you now that my car, after 167,000 Ks, its performance is exactly the same. There's no difference. Whereas, if that was a petrol or a diesel powered car, it would be completely different.
Yeah.
Really know
Have you noticed any degradation to your battery? I'm sure there would be some by now.
Yes, there is some. Yes. Yeah. I've got sort of, I can see what the battery capacity is, and it has reduced. But bearing in mind, these are the earlier generation batteries. So the new batteries now are so vastly superior. It's really like chalk and cheese. Yeah. So, my car and the older cars, they're beyond comparison. There's pointless even looking at those. It's all the new generation cars that are coming through that have very, very long-lived battery packs that have virtually no degradation. But like I said, as far as performance-wise, pickup and throttle performance, there's zero difference.
And with
Yeah, I
software
think-
updates over that lifetime, has that made a difference?
So say again, Chris?
So with
Software,
software updates, has that made a difference
Oh.
to the cars as a driving experience?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When I first got my car, it didn't. It was the first of the AP2 version cars, the autopilot version 2 computer. So it had no cruise control, no lane keeping. It was a fully manual drive car, effectively. You know, you had to manually control your speed, which is just appalling. But we had software updates, and over the few months, it started to learn how to drive. And initially it drove like a 13-year-old, then it drove like a 16-year-old. You know, now it's probably, most of the time it's a pretty mature driver. But yeah, I mean, updates, you know, there's so many. It had automatic parking, so it can reverse park by itself. Although bearing in mind, you only get those features if you've purchased, well, mostly if you've purchased full self-driving. So I presume on your car, Chris, that hasn't got full self-driving enabled?
I think it has. I'm not really au fait with all those options, but I saw a lot of. I was going through the screens today, so yeah, I need to learn. There's a lot to learn. I need some getting started resources.
wow, if you've got FSD, that's a great price.
Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. So I need to make sure that
I think on the screen on the car it doesn't tell you, but it will tell you on your. Once you get, have you got your that car connected to your My Tesla app yet?
No, because it's not registered yet, so I need
Right.
to be the owner of the VIN. So not at this
Okay,
point.
so the acid test will be when you get it connected, you can look at. You can go into the My Tesla account and you manage your car. So you'll see an image of your car. It'll be a representation of it with its correct color and whatever. And you can then go and manage it, and it'll show you what features it has.
Yeah.
Or more importantly, what features you can buy. So yeah, fingers crossed it'll have full self-driving. What you may have seen on the screen on the car was reference to the full self-driving computer.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it says FSD computer. Is that right?
Yeah.
Pete,
So
Nigel?
what it will say is, if you go on the upgrades in your app, and then under upgrades, you will have two menus. One will be eligible. So these are upgrades that your car is eligible for, obviously. And the other menu says purchased. And under purchased, it should say autopilot and full self-driving capability.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. So yeah, just going through the screen menus earlier today, I saw the autopilot settings, and then there was a bunch of other toggles under that with various beaters and
oh well, did it have
light stuff?
Did it have stop at traffic lights?
Yes,
Traffic
it
light.
did.
You've definitely got FSD then.
That's got
Yeah.
full self-driving. Congratulations.
Wow, that
Yeah.
is fantastic.
So that rude question of Pete's wasn't rude at all. You've actually got yourself a good deal. Because
Yeah, I thought so.
Fantastic deal. Yeah.
Because if you were to buy that car, you could have bought that car for 80K without FSD, and to add FSD would cost you $10,100.
Yep,
Hmm.
exactly.
Yeah. Chris, whereabouts do you live?
I haven't enabled Sentry mode yet, so I'll let you know that when I've got that. That's another thing I've got to learn to configure.
No, I was actually going to volunteer to come and show you, but if you live in Joondalup, it's not worth my while.
No, I'm in Mosman Park, and it's interesting. I live in Mozzie Park, and we got friends over the road, and we didn't know this. They just picked up their Tesla Model 3 today as well, so there's two on our street now.
Ah, fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. They're literally they're breeding like rabbits. You know, as I said earlier, you know, we fully expect that the fleet in WA will most likely double this year because of demand, and it's mostly because, well, actually, it is probably going to mostly be because of the new showroom, because people will be able to book a test ride, like test drive. And the great thing about, I don't know if Tesla hasn't really always done this, but because of COVID times and probably now forever, when you book a test drive, it's all by yourself. So there's no, so Harry or Joel, the salespeople, will not be in the car with you. So you get to drive the car and test it yourself by yourself, so that you're not annoyed or encumbered by having someone in the passenger seat. So I think,
and Tesla doesn't have to worry about you stealing the car because they know exactly where it is.
absolutely.
Yeah, they'll just hit the recall button and it'll drive itself back.
Yes, they've got a virtual hockey strap attached to it. But obviously the main thing is that will then mean that people can, unlike many of us who bought our cars sight unseen and we've never even been in a Tesla, many people just want to kick the tires and sit in the seat and just see what the experience is like. And now with the new Osborne Park retail showroom, you'll be able to do that.
And I can attest to that. I went out to one of your little shows and I sat in a 3 and I go, I like this, and went home and ordered one.
You did too, Nigel. You sent me an email that said, thanks for, I've joined the club and ordered a model. No, I've ordered a Model 3 and joined the club. And it's like, wow. And I think, if I recall correctly, you were sort of thinking about getting, you had a FEV, and you were thinking about getting a Kona or something. I wasn't sure, but you weren't that sure. And
I had a deposit on a Kona, and then that was before they were released. And then when they were released and they told me the price, it was going to be $2,000 less than the Model 3. So guess which one I got?
Because you're a wise man. I'll just say that quietly.
Hey, Harold, I can do one better than you, by the way. So I had a gentleman by the name of JD come to one of the events, and similar to Nigel, he had his eye on a Kona. So showed him around the Model 3, and had a chat to him, explained to him. He was surprised to see just how affordable the Model 3s can be. And so the only question for him was what color, and he was just fortunate enough, this was at Langley Park, we had 5 Model 3s with all the 5 possible. He was able to see all colors in real life, and ended up going for the white and bought the car right there, paid for the deposit, and joined Tokwa and paid the fee right there and then. So he did it before he got home. Unlike Nigel, we went home before he did it.
Oh, dear.
Well, that's it. I resign. Goodbye.
So, Chris, are you the full bottle on charging your car?
Well, not really. I mean, I listened in last week and to the Ask Me Anything session, and that was interesting. So at the moment, I've just got it on the 10 amp plugged into the mains.
Yes.
So I'm thinking of getting a line put in to go up to 16 amps, so I can take better advantage of that, but haven't got around to it yet.
So you say 16 amps. So you mean you're going to put a 15 amp power point?
Yes. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yes. Yep. Cool. Now, because you've got a performance Model 3, well, it wouldn't matter if it was performance or long range, or should I say a non-Chinese built SR Plus. It's not a Chinese SR Plus. You just need to set your max charge rate to 90% or less. So resist the urge to set it to 100, because the battery doesn't like stewing at 100% for more than necessary or for longer than necessary. So as long as your slider is set within the daily little ticks that have between 50 and 90%, then it's good for the battery.
And perfectly fine to charge to 100% if you're going to do a long trip, but just try not to keep it at 100% for, you know, unnecessarily long times. And on the downside as well, try and keep the battery above 20% state of charge as well.
Okay.
Like, you know, occasionally no problem going below that, but yeah, if you can, try and keep it between 20 and 90, and that battery should last forever.
Excellent. Yeah, it was quite low when it was delivered. It was maybe 14% this morning.
Okay.
Yep.
But yeah, it's not going to get driven very far until it's registered, so it'll get plenty of time to charge up to a decent level off the mains.
Even at the 10 amps, it'll add about 10 k's an hour or 11 k's an hour. So overnight, you've got, you know, an extra 100 k's just from overnight, and in, you know, 24 hours, you've got a couple of 100 k's.
Chris, is this going to be your only car, or will you have another car in the household?
We still have the old Subaru, and my daughter's learning to drive. And first question was, can I learn to drive in the Tesla? And the answer is no.
So was that a technical? Was that a technical question, or was that a philosophical question?
Yeah, it was an ethical question, maybe. So we'll hang on to that until we know what her plans are beyond high school and university. And yeah, the Subaru's life with us is limited. And whether we become a one-car family or get another EV remains to be seen.
Can highly recommend a Model Y there, Chris. They will be awesome.
Yep, well, I'll join the long queue of people waiting for that.
Thanks, Harold. Thanks, everyone. Very interesting. I'll join you again sometime. Bye.
No worries, Gilbert. Don't forget, we're on YouTube if you want to look at us later.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers.
Nice to meet you, Gilbert.
Thank you. So, yes, Model Y is a very long queue. Yeah, but you know, this thing of Tesla doubling its fleet in Western Australia this year, if they can bring out Model Ys in the next few months, it's just going to go berserk. It really is, because
I was going to mention before your comment about the numbers of Teslas in WA doubling this year. That doesn't include Model Y.
No,
So
no, that's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, as we speak, the only cars that can bolster the fleet this year are Model 3s, because the Model S and X are not currently available until next year. So it's the Model 3s that are doing the heavy lifting to double this fleet.
Well, all the lifting.
All the lifting, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a question.
Yes,
Totally different.
Richard.
I've just had 3-phase power put in a little while ago because I want to put some more solar on the roof and a bigger inverter, etc. And I checked my app today. It's all working great. It's all fine. And then I plugged the car in, which is the first time I've done it because I've been charging up at the golf course, which is really nice. So I plugged it in and I put it on 7 kilowatts, just see, you know, my battery had empty, you know, data. And the house didn't register anything. So it's not registering at all on my app. On the Powerwall app, the power flow didn't register at all. How do I get that fixed? So that's obviously connected to a phase that the
Richard.
Yep.
I'm going to automatically default to what I've learned over 10 years of being in the solar industry, and which is that 90% of all inquiries that come to the support department are solved with power it down and power it back up. It usually solves the issue. So it may just try doing that with your Powerwall. So that alone may, fix it, because it might just be a comms issue.
Right.
Did you install so you just installed a HPWC?
Oh no, I've had that since I've had the car.
Oh, but you've just installed the Powerwall.
No, I've had that for a few months too.
He's just changed to 3-phase. He's just upgraded.
Single to 3-phase.
Oh,
phase
hang
is
on.
the
But
Powerwall?
when you went up to three phase, when you got three phase fitted,
Yep.
did they come and change the way the Powerwall was metering? Did they change the gateway?
No. Oh well, I don't think so. They just went three phase and put in a new bare.
Right. Okay. So the
That's your
bad,
problem there.
I think the bad news is, you're going to need a gateway 3, a version 3 gate or version 2 gateway or whatever it's called.
Well, I was told that this gateway will do three phase.
Yes, but they have to connect. Oh,
Right. More
okay.
CTs on
Okay.
it.
So what you've had is you've had an electrical contractor come
Yep.
and upgrade your house to three phase.
Yeah, to get ready so I can do more stuff.
Okay. So what they haven't done, and they weren't to know that they
No.
should have done this, is they need to route the incoming three phase through the gateway, through
Right.
the CTs or through the meter that's inside the gateway.
Well, I'm getting
Because-
another power wall fitted. So will the guy just do it when he fits the power wall? Because he's the guy who knows everything about that sort of shit.
Well, I guess so. Yes.
He
Yes.
did it right first time, I think. So
Yeah. So because what generally happens is the you've got the grid coming in, you've
Yep.
got the gateway, and then you've got my head is your meter box. So grid, the gateway tastes the grid first, and it goes
right.
through it. Then it goes into the rest of your power board. Although it
Yep.
actually technically goes probably main switch back out to the gateway and then back into your panel, right? Because it sort of does a bit of a serpentine loop.
Yep.
But the grid side has to go through the gateway or through the smart meter in the gateway, so it can measure power flow. So at the moment, what your Powerwall is measuring is only the red phase.
Yep.
Or whatever.
Yep.
So or in fact, what will happen is it won't even know. So presumably the electrician has probably rebalanced your house because it was all single phase.
Yeah.
Depending, like for instance, I know if you have like a Hager circuit breakers, you can basically just change the single phase bus bar. If you've got a bus bar, you change the single phase bus bar to a three phase one, which then just alternates power to every third circuit breaker. So red phase goes on every third circuit breaker, blue phase on every other third, white phase, etc. So that's the issue, Richard. That's all it is that electrician did not realize that he had to route the extra two phases through the Powerwall.
So I'll just wait till they come and fit it all. And yeah, cool.
And so, Richard, have you changed your inverter now on your?
No, not yet. No, it's all running the way it was before.
So you still got a stick. So what have you got? What inverter have you got?
I've got it's a 5 kilowatt. I'm not sure the brand. I've forgotten.
Right. So, but yeah, when did you put your solar in?
The new solar about 9 months ago, probably.
Yeah. So it'll be a single phase inverter. So don't be
okay.
surprised if Western Power makes your upgrades to because Western Power's got a balancing rule, so you can't have more than a 2.5 kilowatt imbalance between the phases. So if you've got a 5 kilowatt, which is a single phase inverter on one phase, then
I'm getting it replacing with an 8 kilowatt 3-phase inverter.
Okay. Yep. Easy.
Anyone want to buy a slightly used single phase inverter?
Well, you don't even know what brand it is.
I could look.
How much? We could do a deal sight unseen. I'll give you $500.
Sold.
Oh, you've paid too much.
I mean,
I was going to say 100.
Sorry, I was thinking about
$500
offering
with
you
the Bitcoin in
500.
the one.
I was going to say $50.
Yeah, but you're a lot brighter than he is, Pete.
I think I'm going to have to invoke the. Hang on, because this is a Zoom meeting and it's virtual. Isn't that a bit like a door-to-door salesman? You know, I need a cooling off period.
Seriously, Harold, is there a market for a 9-month-old 5 kilowatt inverter that probably costs $900?
Ask Pete. I don't know.
The short answer is no, but you can always try on Gumtree or one of Facebook, or you never know. I've actually got a 5 kilowatt, an extra 5 kilowatt Aurora sitting in the garage as well. It's been there for a couple of years. It's not worthwhile selling.
You should ask
So-
Harold. He does really good deals.
Yeah, Harold. I'll sell mine for $450.
No, $650. Oh dear.
No, but yeah, look, the reason why I'm keeping it is I might set up a little separate off-grid system because I've got some extra panels as well. Maybe I can rig up a Bitcoin mining rig to it.
I'm actually planning on when I can find a car charger that can connect to an off-grid inverter. I want to set up an off-grid system just to charge the car. But yeah, I'm yet to find such thing.
So say again, Richard, what is it?
So what my plan is to do for the garage is to basically install an off-grid carport. But at the moment, what doesn't really exist is a car charger that can tell the inverter to stop producing power when there's no demand and to vary it. So that's something that I've got a few irons in the fire. Not me personally doing it, but yeah, people working on it through other people. So yeah, we shall see. Because if that comes out as a product, an inverter that can. So I've got a Solar Edge inverted car charger, but it won't work off grid. But when it does, or another one that does, then I'll be putting up, essentially an off grid inverter, solar panel, car charger set up, and then just charge the car straight off of that.
So why wouldn't something like a SMA Sunny Island work?
I don't know. Maybe it will. I've never heard of that, so I'm sort of hunting in the dark really for a solution to this.
Yeah, that's
what is
it? The Sunny Island is SMA's off-grid product.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how? Okay.
The only limitation there is you'd have to sort of anticipate what you expect its production to be. It'll be a bit clumsy. So the biggest issue is the car can't draw more than the inverter can supply, because then it will just droop and die away, and then it won't work. You can always safely draw less energy than the inverter can supply.
Yeah.
So the nexus there is, it's a little bit like anyone trickling their solar into their car. At the moment, what you do is you just set your car to 10 amps or whatever, like low value, so that you're not pulling in from the grid. So you could do that with a Sunny Island, as Pete suggested, but you'd have to sort of do it in a way that is sort of semi-manual, where, say it's a sunny day and it's 10 o'clock in the morning, you may go, oh, right, I'll turn car charging on now through the app, and you might set it to say 2.5 kilowatts equivalent, and then the Sunny Island will then supply that car charging until say 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And if you just left it on and the sun started going down, you would get to a point whereby the Sunny Island would start throttling down. Well, it just runs out of puff, and then it would probably disconnect.
It would just stop charging.
It just stop. Yeah, it would just stop supplying power.
Yeah, no, I want it to be fully automatic. So, because at the moment, the inverter will excess solar charge the car, but it's still grid tied. So
well, you could, if you had a Sunny Island that was married to a battery.
Yeah.
Then, but again, we're starting to get expensive.
Well, that's part of the point as well. It's the genesis of this idea was, can I buy a cheap second-hand solar system, put it up onto the garage roof, and then charge the car off that with? Yeah, I mean, I could get a go all out and get another Powerball and have that in an off-grid thing, and then that would work fine. But that's not the point of the exercise.
You know, there's something even better. Is
go on.
If you had a solar-powered DC charger, because it's so much easier. So there's two different types. There's AC, which comes into the car charger. The car charger then transforms it to DC and feeds it into the battery.
Oh yeah.
One thing that solar panels are really good at doing is charging DC stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point, actually.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the panels don't mind being, well, I wouldn't say short circuited. Say you've got a 500 volt string, which is the maximum. Is it 500, Pete, or is it
600 for residential? I think
for
600 volts for residential.
600 residential, 1,000.
Yeah, 1,000 for commercial.
Yep.
Yeah.
So say you've got a 550 volt string.
Yep.
And you then put that across a 380 volt battery. All that happens is the battery effectively clamps the DC voltage of the panels to 380 volts.
Right.
And then the current flows, which is, about 6 to 10 amps. So, and because the charging rate is so low, it's, 5 kilowatts or whatever, there's very little control that you need of it. So
that's a very
what sort of frustrates me is it's actually really easy to do a basic, it's not a fast DC charger, but a DC charger. It's really quite simple. But the problem is you need to have all these safety features. So you've got to have
that's the thing.
You've got to have the ground.
It's kind of, easy to do it, but not easy to do it safely.
Yes. So you still need a CCS connector, obviously. Well, you need that anyway to plug into the car, but you need to do all these other safety tests. So you need to do an earth leakage test, and all sorts of things, welded contact test, all these things. So that stuff is inherently expensive, although it doesn't really have to be. And that would be actually really easy for solar panels to cope with, because you don't have to worry about transforming it to AC and then back to DC. It's just straight DC. And then all that happens is, because you're diode isolated, if at nighttime, in the afternoon, when really panels don't lose voltage until it's almost no light at all. So an open circuit solar panel in moonlight can be hundreds of volts, the string. So it's still dangerous. It can still kill you on a full moon easily.
I did not know that.
It's just the way the physics of it works. The voltage is always there. It's just that there's no current. There's no.
Unless you have a micro optimizer or a micro inverter fitted, which effectively takes the voltage down to 1 or 2 volts per panel.
Yes.
That's right. It keeps trying to maintain the amperage.
Which I've got.
But I think the main crux of your issue was you wanted to get a cheap inverter and a cheap setup to be off grid.
Yeah.
And that those two things don't marry up.
Don't want for much. Well, I mean, look, there's for every kilowatt hour that I don't put into the car, I can earn 7 cents a kilowatt hour for export. So there is some financial value in doing it.
Yes.
Nothing that's kind of come to a reasonable level just yet.
As a thought experiment or something to do as an interesting innovation, it's certainly worth pursuing.
Because if all of us can get 6.6 kilowatts worth of panels up and power our houses, and then put another 6.6 up and charge our cars, then happy days.
Well, we'll put it this way. There's companies like Fronius have their Gen 24 inverter, which does 10 kilowatts. It can handle 9 kilowatts charge and discharge from a battery pack. And that can be a BYD pack, which is a high voltage packs, which are the 400 volt class packs.
You can do that on 3-phase too.
Yes, and I can tell you now that there is almost nothing simpler than attaching your car to that setup notionally, because as far as the inverter is concerned, the battery that's in your car is no different to the BYD battery, as long as it's got the communications.
Yeah, I see.
So you know, here's a shout out because we know Elon watches this this show. The owners of Fronius, SMA, Solar Edge, and all the others ought to come out with a DC coupled inverter. So, and that could, with the permission, with appropriate firmware in the car, actually permit vehicle to grid operation. Because that's all it is. As soon as you've got access to the DC pins of your battery, you are a vehicle to grid operation.
Not the Model 3.
Yes, no, via the DC route. So,
yes, not yeah.
Bypassing
not
the
by
inverter.
so you bypass the charger, you're straight to
good
DC.
point.
But of course, it would need the battery management system to accept that. So what it would do is the car would believe it's connected to a charger, but then the charger would just inexplicably start drawing energy rather than giving it, than delivering it. So you may not necessarily want the car to be a source of power. You only want it to be a destination of power. So you could just have it, forget the vehicle to grid, you just have grid to vehicle, but you can do it via the DC route, which is, like I said, that's what the Froniuses and all the inverters who are battery connected do. And they do it really well. They'll trickle it in so that there's zero net export. And they could easily be programmed so that they don't actually draw energy back the other way. And that is a super, all the electronics are already in the inverters right now. It's just a matter of having the interface to the car. So that means you need a little bit of extra circuitry to check for, like I said, isolation. And in fact, I know my Fronius inverter actually does that every morning at 5 a.m. It disconnects the battery and does an isolation test because it has to under
one of those
Australian standards, which is why those inverters, even though the Gen 24 can actually, you can go into power fail mode, and if you have an isolating contactor, it can actually island off your house if there's a grid failure. You can't. It's not designed to be an islanding inverter, and one of its Achilles heels is that every 24-hour period it has to do an isolation test by law or by regulation.
So that might explain why at around 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning, I register a smidgen of power imported from the grid.
Correct. Because it has to do an isolation test. And it's got to do it
Have you got a Powerwall, Nigel?
Sorry?
Have you got a Powerwall?
No, I've just got El Cheapo batteries and a 5 kilowatt inverter and 6.5 kilowatts panels.
Yeah. So that's why, at roughly 5 a.m., it's just been decided that's like a good time to do it. It just has to disconnect and do an isolation test. So obviously an inverter would have to do an isolation test with the car. But of course, the beautiful thing about that is it can do that isolation test when you first connect the car. When you first plug in, do the isolation test, and then you can start charging it. And, you know, the frustrating thing is none of this would cost a lot of money. And most people with hybrid inverters have already got the circuitry there. You just need like a little module, an additional module for that feature.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, rant over.
Wow, very interesting.
But look, Richard, if all else fails, you could always get a Cybertruck with the solar canopy if Elon ends up bringing it in.
Which Elon has said you're not going to get. So
well, if not, well, he said on Joe Rogan that it might make sense with the caravan. So we might have to wait for.
I don't even know where to park it.
So not a caravan. He said it might make sense with a van. Sorry.
Yes.
Because then there's, but look.
Real estate.
Now, speaking of things that are adventurous, this next story, which the gentleman is going to speak of it, doesn't even know about it yet. But Leicester has some sage advice for people that drive their cars on using navigation. And in fact, Carmen has already had this same experience. And unfortunately, Leicester has repeated this experience because he wasn't aware of Carmen's experience. So we're going to reiterate that you need to be careful when you just navigate to a destination. So excuse me, Lester, if I just dob you into telling us a story, but if you can please just summarize what happened on Sunday.
Yeah, that's fine. I was going up to Corrigan and I asked the girl that lives in the dash where Corrigan was, and I should know, I was born there, but for some reason it put Corrigan Narrabeen in. I don't know why. Was it Narrabeen? No, anyway, there's another town hooked up there as well, and it drove me around in circles for about an hour and a half. So normally I should have got up to Corrigan, which was only about 220 Ks, and 20 or 30 Ks cruising around there, and then back to home again without any drama at all on a full battery, because I filled the battery right up to 100% that morning before I left.
And that's
anyway,
a Model S too, by the way. So
sorry?
that's a Model S that Leicester has. So that's got huge range. Awesome.
Yeah, Model S, yeah. It's a fairly new one. It's only done at 2,000 Ks or almost. Anyway, so I got up to Corrigan and freaked out when I got up there and realised that I needed a charge. Now, they had a three-phase plug at the hotel, so I thought, oh, good to go. But the cord that I had didn't fit. It was an ordinary three-phase outlet. I think I sent a photo.
Yes, so what Leicester had was the Type 2 to Type 2 cable.
Yeah.
And I hadn't lent him a three-phase EVSE, like a charger, because I knew that he would have plenty of charge, and at worst he might have to charge up at Brookton at the Type 2 charger. But I hadn't bargained on Leicester having done an extra 150 kilometres to get to Corrigan because it wasn't the most direct route. So that sort of changed the equation a bit.
Yeah, when I found out that I couldn't plug it into the three-phase, the guy said, oh, no drama, we'll plug into the 10 amp. I went, okay, so we'll get in between 5 kilometres and 0 kilometres an hour for a couple of hours. I think it added 2 Ks to the car. So I'm in sort of panic mode by this time. And so I eventually jumped in the car and started driving, and the girl in the car said, you better slow down, you're not going to get home, and you're not going to get home anyway. I went, So I pulled into Brookton, couldn't get the machine going, asked the girl there what the GO was. She said, well, I've got no idea. Someone else called in here the other day, we couldn't get it going either. And by this time I'm thinking, that's it. I'm going to spend the rest of my life on the side of the road in Brookton. It's all over, good night, Dick. I rang Harold, and fortunately he told me about an app I needed to download, which I did. And the girl at the service station, which is a really nice girl, she said, look, that's great. So she can tell other people about that. So I downloaded the app and got the thing going. It was great, put my credit card in. And it charged me up at 98 and 99 kilometres an hour, which was great. So I sat there for about 3/4 of an hour and had a pie and a cup of coffee. And I got home with about 20 Ks up my sleeve, which I never, ever, am I going to get that close to it again. But overall, it was a very good experience because I learned so much. As I say, I've only had the car for a couple of weeks, and this was like, why did I get a Tesla when I was in Brookton? But it's all good now. We're all back in happy land again.
So was that the ChargeFox app that you downloaded, Lester?
No.
Was that wasn't ChargeFox?
No, it was, and I'll tell you what it was. I just look on here. It was Next Charge.
Next Charge, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, and it worked great. once I'd done that and put my credit card in, I had the car already plugged in, and it just started charging by itself. I thought, oh, you beauty. Yeah, so that was all very good.
Yeah, so at Brookton on PlugShare, you can see that it says in the details, activate via NextCharge smartphone app or a NextCharge RFID.
Yeah, I've never done any of that. It's the first time I've ever charged outside of home where I've got a charger on the wall before. And of course, it was all new to me, and it was like panic.
Well, and that's the whole point, because for anyone that's bought an EV for the first time, in their entire life, everyone is used to putting petrol in the car from when you were a little kid. You know, even if you didn't get to do it yourself, you watched your parents or whoever doing it all the time. So an EV really is a completely different experience, and no one should be expected to know what to do first up. You know, it's all new. So
but the problem is that every EV charger, it should be a standard, maybe stipulated by government. Every EV charger you should be able to activate and pay for simply by swiping a credit card.
I agree.
I totally agree, Pete.
that is what you need. PayWave.
Yep.
Just like parking meters. They have a parking meter that's almost, someone just shared between 2 bays or 10 bays, and they accept payments as little as $1 or $2, and they'll accept a PayWave credit card, all of them.
So would that thing in Brookton accept that PayWave?
No.
No, okay.
So unfortunately, as Pete alluded to, the EV charging scheme is just a schmozzle. Most of them, well, apart from the ones that are free, which is awesome, or say Tesla's supercharger, which is similarly awesome, at least for Teslas, whereby you just plug in. And I'm not entirely sure, but presuming you've got a credit card attached to your My Tesla account, which almost everyone does, you can just charge automatically, and it will then send you the bill, or it will just extract the money from your credit card.
You got to be careful. You got to be careful though that your credit card hasn't expired.
True.
And so if it has expired, does it actually just charge?
No, it will still let you charge. But there was a story in the US. The guy rang in to Ride Net Lightning, Ryan McCaffrey's podcast. And I can't remember what the story was. He was in some national park, and his credit card had expired, but it still let him charge. But I can't remember whether it only lets you charge up to a certain dollar limit, or whether it's
it was something like that, wasn't it? It was like 1 or 2 sessions or something you got. I remember that one as well.
Yeah, or something like that. So
you're sort of on probation, or you're given a little bit of credit.
A little bit of grace.
Update your card.
Am I misremembering that Tesla announced or suggested at one point that they would be coming out with destination chargers that could also accept PayWave? I feel like I heard that.
No.
A year or so ago.
No, what they're doing is their 3rd generation chargers, the HPWCs, high power wall connectors, which have the front fascia is white as opposed to the silver that they are now.
Okay.
And they are available in the States. They are internet connected.
Okay.
I think it's Wi-Fi.
It's Wi-Fi, yes.
And what Tesla are offering for people that host those destination chargers is the ability to charge users via the Tesla system.
Yeah.
So you can basically then charge for the use of that charger. But
so I would think that would be a great EVSE to offer for sales for people, because businesses, it's, how hard it is to get them to install a charger that they, end up giving power away for free. If they could actually say, you know, you say, look, you can install this, but everyone that has to pay, you know, come along has to pay with a pay wave, and you know, then you actually earn some money from it.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So
Harold,
yeah, go on, Pete.
You know, if that's restricted to sort of commercial entities or enterprises, or can an individual?
Good question.
I don't think Tesla cares. I think as far feature-wise, they don't care. But you don't know. You know, there might be I don't know whether there might be an access fee for that service. In other words, like a monthly fee, or it might be a small clip of the profit, or of the turnover that Tesla might take. So it might be that if you charge 30 cents a unit, they may have a commission or something like that, perhaps. I don't think it's actually in place yet, but Tesla have announced it as a feature of that third generation charger. But getting back to the other chargers, so the problem is that many of the fast DC chargers and some of the AC chargers, as Lester saw, you need to use an app to activate it and pay for it. Some of them, you just need an app just to activate it, even though it's free, which is sort of a bit silly because the same charger can actually be configured to just work for free without an app. But unfortunately, I think some people have been convinced that it's a good idea, inverted commas, to have an app trigger and report what's being used, even though it's for free. And Bjorn Nyland, he's a Norwegian that is very prolific Tesla video creator, and he did a great video. Oh, it's probably about 18 months ago, where he described, he was actually on holidays in Amsterdam, and he was describing the situation of car chargers in terms of things you would do in Amsterdam. So he goes to an ice cream shop and he goes, well, I can't pay for this ice cream with cash or a credit card. I have to download the ice cream payment app to pay for an ice cream. And then he walks to a hot dog stand or something similar and goes, well, I can only pay for this hot dog with a special hot dog card. And then he goes around the corner and wants to buy a coffee, and he can only pay for this coffee using the special coffee app.
That's how ridiculous it is.
But you can't use cash or a credit card. And it's like, and then you go to the newspaper, and you try and use a credit card to buy a newspaper, and they say, no, sorry, sir, you've got to have the special newspaper app or card. And this is what all the car chargers are doing at the moment, except for Tesla, is they're forcing you to use some app or some card, and none of them are cross-compatible, and none of them are compatible with PayWave. And I mean, everyone has PayWave, even if you haven't got a credit card. If you've got a debit card or even just a bank card these days, they all have PayWave.
That's why before it gets, because we really only have 2 apps really in WA, and that's NextCharge and ChargeFox. So so why don't we nip it in the bud, nice and early before it gets out of control, like it has in Europe, where they've got to have 17 million different apps for every.
Didn't they make it a law in Germany that you had to have a card reader on your card chargers? Somewhere I seem to remember that they were going to do that.
I think they're trying to do that. For example, I remember hiring a Tesla in Austria, and I was given, you know how you get those business card holders that there's like plastic and it all folds up, and you sort of like you can fan it out, and there's like about 10 cards. Well, I had about that many payment cards in Austria for the different charging systems. Some were sort of free. It was like a membership type thing. So if you had a card, a bit like, well, actually, we've got one here where we do, what's the charger in Coburn, Nigel, that doesn't work anymore?
But ChargePoint.
ChargePoint. So it's free, but you need a little RFID card. Oh, actually, and also at Garden City Shopping Centre.
Yeah, it's wherever they are. Mandurah Forum.
Yep.
At Baldivis Dockland Shopping Centre.
Yep. So that's the insanity, is you've got all these different mechanisms of triggering charging. One thing I think the Europeans are keen on is ISO, I forget what the number is, but that's the standard, a little bit like what Tesla does, which is when you plug the car into the charger, it communicates with your car. You've already registered with a central organization, effectively your credit card details, and there's nothing else for the user to do. The car is connected to an account, and it will then negotiate with the charger and make things happen. I mean, that's not a bad system, but it still relies on you establishing an account. Whereas PayWave, everyone's got it, and everyone should be able to use it. And you're right, Pete, it should be mandated. And look, we hope in WA with the state government having announced its WA electric highway, we hope they will mandate that all the fast DC chargers have PayWave devices on them. So anyone, whether you're a tourist or a local, can just walk up, pay with your credit card, job done.
If they don't, it will be a huge missed opportunity. Huge missed opportunity.
Yeah, and they could.
Sorry, Nigel, go on.
I was just going to say that surely they can also mandate that all the other chargers have got to switch over to have PayWave within a time period, and that from 2023 it will be mandated that they have to.
Well,
Just on that though, like I noticed that it was actually a link that Pete sent out the other day, which was a link to another sort of official media statement about the WA EV network. So I went there, and there was an email address on there which says, if you want to be updated about this or consulted on it, email this email address. So I did, and the stock response I got was that the network would be rolled out. What was what did they say? It was that in the 21-22 year tax year, it would then take 3 years to build. So
Correct.
We're now up to 2025.
Yeah.
By which time, once it's built, it will be completely inadequate for the number of electric vehicles that will be here by then. So,
but I think that's just them sort of covering themselves, and that's the absolute sort of end time frame.
I hope so, but
yeah,
forgive my skepticism.
But it seems like next 12 months it should all be up and running.
Yeah,
but, unless they, there's specific sites where, Western Power, it's going to be hard to hook up to.
No, and I get that. Here's another thought that comes to my mind though. So in Europe, you probably, most of you experienced long-term owners will know that Tesla have been putting supercharger stations in, but they're allowing a couple of bays for non-Teslas to actually charge, and that there are some manufacturers that are able to use Tesla superchargers, but it's all a bit on the down low. So I wonder if the WA government could work with Tesla and say, look, you want to put a network in, we want to put a network in, it's on CCS2, can we work in partnership if it means that, non-Teslas can also charge there?
That would be ideal, literally, because Tesla's got the chargers at a low cost because they're building them themselves. And for everything north of Perth, or let's call it north of Geraldton, they've also got, well, forget the solar panels because they're too expensive, but you can get much cheaper solar panels elsewhere. But they've got the battery storage and all that system, so they could do the off-grid fast DC charging. Yep. And then they could also provide that energy at a cheaper price to the roadhouses and off-grid locations to displace all the diesel that's being burnt in their diesel generators. But you could use those generators as a source of backup power back to the battery storage.
Yep, I'm working on similar things on site here at work. So
Yep. So
um,
Tesla could absolutely partner with the state government, and effectively take the $20 million and turn it into $30 million of charging infrastructure.
yes. So how do we get that conversation happening?
You probably have to talk to Amber Jane Johnson, the new Minister for Renewables.
Yes. And climate change.
It's difficult
Yes,
because there's wheels. It's difficult because there's wheels within wheels, because it seems that even though Elon Musk has several times stated that he/Tesla is open to opening up the supercharger network, I don't believe most of the other Tesla executives or regional managers or local managers are happy for that to happen, because in most places there's an overwhelming demand for superchargers from Teslas. You see in Norway, they've got 20 stall supercharging stations, and then they've actually got nine sets of supercharger sleds, which are like 2 stalls on a little pallet, that are temporary installation, and they've got sort of 9 of those providing another 18 nozzles that are kind of temporary adjacent to that site, because the demand is overwhelming. So but frustratingly, in Australia it's different. It wouldn't make any difference to Tesla or to us as owners of Teslas if Eaton was opened up to Konas, iPaces, Taycans, or one or two.
In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, but it only seems to be that because you've got the 350 kilowatt charger in Australand, which is cheaper. It seems, unless I'm wrong, the Model 3s are charging there faster and cheaper. So therefore, it really isn't being used. It's only by us, with people like us with legacy cars that have lifetime supercharging.
Yeah, I've got free supercharging at the moment, and my second referral will get his car. Was it this week or next week, before the end of the month? Then I'll get another 6 months after that. So I'll be using the Eaton superchargers free until end of September.
Absolutely, and then going over and charging at 250 kilowatts.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think mine goes over 200.
Oh, sorry, standard range plus. Yep.
Yeah. Mind you, at the Eaton ones, I'll be getting 129 kilowatts.
More than I get.
So absolutely. At the moment, Treendale, the ultra fast DC charger is cheaper than Tesla's paid offering. Absolutely.
Well, what I think they should do is open it up to any other manufacturer to use. But what they should do is charge double or triple than what they charge Tesla drivers, or better still, drop the rate by half, or some other ratio for Tesla drivers, and keep the same rate for others. Because I've got absolutely no problem of anyone else charging. We've got a Holden Volt as well, and so I'd love to be able to charge that on a Tesla charger, but I wouldn't want it be taken up by locals who just go and charge there and sit there for 6 hours for free while they jump on a train and go to work, and come and pick up their car, which
there'd have to be a fair use policy or some, and it would be completely appropriate for Tesla to subsidize the charging for Tesla owners, and then to have a standard price for non-Tesla owners. And it's funny, Pete, because you say that Tesla should have a relationship with other manufacturers. They don't need to. All they need to do is establish a relationship with the owner of that other car. So all they need to do is download the My Tesla app.
Well, they might not even need to download the app if they've got the PayWave with the Gen 3 destination charges.
Well, no, they don't. No, they don't. No, on the Gen 3 destination, there's no pay wave. It's just done through the internet. So it's just done through negotiation of a VIN or other detail. But
Right.
what they could do is get the non-Tesla owner, let's call it a Kona owner. Try and say that 5 times. You get the Kona owner to download the My Tesla app and then put in their car's details into that app. And they may have to do it by actually going to a supercharger stall with the app, plug their car in, the Kona, and then tell the app that I'm at stall number 2A or something at Eaton. And then it will then register that car with the system. You put in your credit card details, establish an account, job done. And then it will work throughout the network, well, you know, worldwide.
But it's similar to what we were saying before. So now that Kona owner, he's got to have a, you know, charge point, next charge, ChargeFox, and Tesla app.
No, well, yes and no. The Tesla app was only used to enroll the car and establish the account and possibly monitor the usage or whatever. But once the Kona plugs in, the supercharger will interrogate it via the CCS communications protocol and establish what car it is or what serial number it is or whatever, and then start charging. It might need a software update on behalf of the car, possibly.
Right.
Because in other news, Tritium have announced that all their old RT 50 kilowatt fast DC chargers, such as what Tokwa has in Geraldton, with a software update, will be compatible with this ISO, whatever it is, charging standard, which is basically that it's a bit like a supercharger. You plug the car in and it negotiates with the car and does the billing off-site, like without your intervention, with any app or anything. So,
Yeah. So what you're saying is with the Tesla app, the difference is versus ChargePoint, ChargeFox, Next Charge, is that you only have to do that once,
yes,
just to register your car on the network, and then every time you plug it in, the CCS comms protocol recognizes it as a car that's already got an account set up, and hence you don't have to do anything else. You just plug it in and it charges and debits your credit card automatically.
Yes. Yep. I imagine that's the easiest way.
Because that's what happens with Teslas at the moment. But yeah, I just wasn't sure if you could do that.
Well, that's right, because when you buy your car and you first enroll into your My Tesla app and it connects to where your car is connected to it via the main system, in a sense, then it's job done. Well, sort of. I mean, really, the My Tesla app is really there to, well, control your car, monitor where it is, buy things, accessories, not accessories, you know, book service appointments and whatever. But for a Kona owner, it could just be to establish this relationship. And once you've done that, you can just use the app to monitor. Well, you could get live charging information. Because the Kona
while you're grabbing a cup of coffee.
Exactly. Because
check on your app to see where you're at.
And it can also give you a notification warning you that you're about to overstay because you're getting up to whatever 90%, or it'll just say, you know, you're probably nearly fully charged, and you need to go back to your Kona to evacuate it off the supercharger. Otherwise, you have an idle fee.
Yeah, or it could give you a notification if it stops charging for whatever reason.
Well, if charging is completed, yes, exactly, yes.
Or if there's been some sort of a problem and it's disconnected, so rather than you know, reading a newspaper for the next 50 minutes waiting for it to charge, only to come back and notice that it stopped charging 55 minutes ago. Yeah,
exactly. So so that's, and Tesla could do that tomorrow.
So is your credit card automatically hooked up like on that app on the phone, or do you have to go to another step to actually hook your credit card up to the Tesla app?
No, I think you can do it through the app, can't you? I can't remember how I did mine.
Okay.
If not, there's only two ways to do it. So one is either through the app. If you can't do it through the app, then you just use your login credentials to. So you go into Tesla.com, and on the right hand side there's the three lines. You press on that and press account, and then log in. And so yeah.
I think that's how I did it. I think that's what you have to do through the Tesla.com website rather
than just on a computer
app, I think. But then that was January last year or December last year when I did all that.
Yeah, because my card, I don't think my card's hooked up.
Yeah, so Lisa, just log in on your My Tesla account on the Tesla.com website, and there will be somewhere under profile, I think there will be attached credit card or something similar.
Yeah, right. No worries. Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow.
Although you would probably have, did you buy your car with a referral code or anything? Have you got any free supercharging kilometers?
No, nothing.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so in which case you'll have to, well, you ought to do that before you try to use the Eaton supercharger.
Yeah, because when I went out to and I got my spare wheel, I had to actually give the guy in at Osborne Park my credit card number because he couldn't do it through anything else. So I mustn't be hooked up.
Although actually having just said that you should hook up your credit card before using Eaton, of course, because you've got a new Model S, you actually, well, it's cheaper to go to Treendale, which is just 3 kilometers north of Eaton, and it's cheaper.
Yeah, okay.
So Treendale charges Treendale 40
cents.
40 odd cents, 40 cents per kilowatt hour, whereas Eaton is 51 cents per kilowatt hour.
Okay. So that Treendale one, what setup is that?
That's a 350, well, inverted commas, 350 kilowatt fast DC charger. And it looks like someone's got 155 kilowatts out of it.
So, because I don't understand any of that. So what, how fast would that charge my car up then?
Oh, wow. Sorry, actually, Peter Harris, on your Pete, he got 190 kilowatts.
Yeah.
Oof.
Wow.
Awesome.
So Lester, so the way to think about it is, so your Model S, is that 100D, is it? Which model have you got?
It's nearly brand new, Pete,
Yeah.
so it's 100D.
It says a dual motor on the back. It's a performance model.
Okay, so it'll be 100. Yeah, so we'll have 100 kilowatt hour battery roughly.
Yeah.
So that means if you charge it at 100 kilowatts for 1 hour, you'll recharge that battery from 0 to 100% in that time frame. So if you're charging at 190 kilowatts, like Pete Harris was doing at Treendale, that means you'll be able to recharge that whole battery from 0 to 100% in roughly about half an hour. It's not exact because the battery management system will adjust the charging rate according to the state of charge, the temperature of the battery, whether it's been conditioned, and various other sort of variables. But roughly, that's what that means.
And do I need anything else apart from what I've got, like its cords or apps?
No, but you just need the ChargeFox app. So you've currently got the Next Charge app. What you need to download next is the ChargeFox app.
ChargeFox app.
Yes.
ChargeFox.
All one word. It's an orange looking, well, it looks like the head of a fox, sort of, emotionally.
And just download that, and then I guess.
Oh,
but you got to register your credit card with it.
And yeah, same as I did with that one in what's the name on the weekend? Yeah,
it's the one. It's just that one there. It looks like.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So the registration of your credit card with the Tesla app.
Yep.
You can't do it through the app. I've just checked.
Yeah, look,
Even
I
if you
mean,
go under settings and account,
you go on to your Tesla account, and then you've got manage payment method there.
Oh, okay.
Go and put
Cool.
in your credit card details.
Yeah, right. Okay. I'll check that out because I don't think I'm all cooked in there, but it certainly sounds like I should be getting all this stuff done if I want to drive around anyway.
absolutely.
Yes. Yep. Yep. And best you do it sort of, you know, a day or two before you want to go, just to make sure it gets all established.
They don't let me out much because I'm working sort of 7 days a week in my business. So, and I usually leave home with a 520 mile range or kilometre range. You know, it's about 80%. And so I probably won't need much, but I'm hoping someday as I get older that they'll let me out a bit more.
Well, if you're planning on sort of long trips and etc., might even be worthwhile. So with ChargeFox and some of the other, they give you the option to apply for a RFID card, so a physical card. So where that may come in handy is if there's no network coverage for your phone. So yeah, Lake Grace is a good example, but yeah, there's a few others. Or you know, if you've got a problem with your phone or what have you, it's good to keep in the glove box.
Yeah, it's the phone's pretty good. It's a Samsung, and I'm hooked up with Telstra, so I've got pretty good coverage everywhere. I went up to Monkey Mia years and years ago, and I was with Three. I couldn't get any coverage at all, but all the Telstra people, no problems.
It's still a good tip. For instance, Lake Grace,
yeah,
is a bit crappy. I think on Optus or Vodafone, one or the other. So what one gentleman worked out to do was he walked up to the visitor centre, which was a couple of 100 metres down the road or up the road, and he tethered his phone onto the visitor centre free Wi-Fi, triggered on the app to start charging, and then waved to his wife, who then plugged the car in. So as Pete says, it's a good thing to get the RFID card.
Yeah, yeah.
And what you can do is if you've got a Smart Rider card, you can actually send ChargeFox the serial number of that card, and they can attach it to your account, and it can then be used to trigger charges that are out there.
And you can register with UWA, and you can use the UWA charger with your Smart Rider or any other RFID card as well. Yeah. And that's a free charger, a free 50 kilowatt DC charger.
Yes, that's at UWA next to the Uni Club. The club.
Near the library.
Near the Reed Library. It's just so the Reed Library is here, and the University Club is just there, and it's a half-hour free parking and free charging. And there's basically a sign, so it's one exclusive bay, free parking, free charging, but it is time limited to half an hour. So there you go.
Mind if I interrupt? I've got a few I want to go through, if possible. One of them is important to me. Just a couple of times. Is it okay?
Yes, yeah, go for it.
A couple of times ago, I mentioned that I tried to hook up my sort of solid 100 amp hour lithium battery and a 250 watt solar and a 2 kilowatts inverter to my car, and just nothing would work. It just all comes at red lights, everything. But I did, and it complains of a grounding problem. It's actually because it wasn't a bonded neutral. So once I once I actually got that, joined the neutral to earth effectively, that was all fine after that. So, sorry, most of it was fine. It wouldn't work on lithium because lithium 12-volt batteries are limited to 50 amps, and that's not just enough. It's not enough to sort of to trigger the proper charging. But if you use the lead acid battery, then that's and if you run that at 100 amp, 160 amps or whatever, it will charge at 5 plus amp range, but the cabling I've got to my 2 kilowatt inverter is not much, so I'm not quite getting as I can't do it usefully, but I'll just upgrade the wires and it should work. Anyway, this first thing. So bonded neutral, that's neutral to earth, and that fixes that problem.
You have to, because it's got to be on the TN system. So otherwise, you're on the Norwegian system, and it won't. It just won't work.
It's the same with the generator as well. It wouldn't work unless I had the bonded neutral.
Yep.
Anyway, that's the first thing. Secondly, I was running yesterday by Dr. Sue Chapman, who's I took for a long drive in my Model 3 long range because she talked about wanting to get a Tesla anyway. She's just bought it and hasn't taken. But anyway, I've got 1,500 kilometers. Which I've got to use up in the next month. So I'm not quite sure with the September thing, but I'm sure I'm not getting September. It has to be used up the next month. I mean, I'm not doing any long trips at the moment. Well, wasn't going to. So I'm just a bit. It has to be used up fairly quickly at the Eaton supercharger if I'm going to use it. So
Yes.
We just got a power bill, which is it's sort of a for home. This is a bit more. But anyway, that's the second thing. Third thing is I've just done 10 kilometers. Sorry, 10,000 kilometers. And I booked it. I thought I booked a service, but it looks like it didn't go through or something for a variety of things. But what the things I need to do, as I understand, is probably consider air conditioning filter, rotate the tires front to back, and just a quick check over, I imagine. There's a bit of a hole in the underneath pan where my wife had a disagreement with a curb in on the way to Calbo anyway.
So getting onto the aircon filter,
yep,
it's totally personal preference. I don't know whether I should be proud of it, but I can state that I haven't changed my aircon filter in 167,000 kilometers. That's the cabin filter.
Yep.
And maybe it is time to change it.
Yeah.
But I haven't. The tire rotation, yes. So front to back on your car, but you don't need Tesla to do that. Anyone can do that. So you don't need to book that in with Tesla. Tesla don't have any regular maintenance or servicing regimes.
There's no scheduled servicing.
No scheduled servicing.
Yeah.
So
I wasn't quite sure about the air conditioning filter, really how important that was or whatever. I don't see a great.
No, it's only the internal filter. It's the recirculating filter. So you'd only really want to change that if your car started smelling weird or whatever. But like I said, in my case, I've had it for 167,000 Ks, and it's totally fine. So certainly 10, you wouldn't do it at. To be honest, you wouldn't do it at 10. That's for sure.
Okay.
But if you want to know what the actual recommendation is, if you just go on the service on, so you press the car icon in the bottom right hand corner, then go on the service, and then go into owner's manual, and under search type in maintenance, and it will give you I think there's about 5 or 6 items. So, but yeah, you're right. There's there's 2 filters, one that needs to be changed every 2 years, one every 5 years. They're about $80 each. They're less than $100, I think. There's the tire rotation every 10 years. There's a brake check for which they recommend every 12 months, I think, from memory.
That's
Something like that.
moisture. Is that the moisture for your brake fluid, or is that just your brake pads, Pete?
No, no, it's a, I can't remember what the wording is, but it's, I think they check not just the brake fluid, but whether there's,
It's the boiling temperature of the brake fluid, isn't it? They put a probe into the fluid and it checks to see, it infers moisture content according to its boiling point. I think there's a little chamber in this little thing that sort of raises the temperature until it boils. And then from that, it works out how much moisture has entered the system, I think.
Right.
Okay, no, thanks. The next thing is I went to plug in my home plug because I have to go to Perth in a couple of days, and I looked and it didn't sort of fit in very well. I looked at there was a bee, one of these little sort of wild bees that is likes going into holes and they fill up the so it blocked up a couple of those and it wouldn't fit in properly. And so I spent the next half an hour sort of with acetone and cotton buds and so on, cleaning it all out. And then I plugged it in and it didn't work. Everything it was red and wouldn't charge. And behind me, you'll see the plug. So I'll get out of the way of it. Sorry, well, it's difficult to do this. And the control pins, one of them's pushed back 2 centimeters.
Oh yeah, no, that's completely normal, Pete.
How it goes?
So the one on the right-hand side,
Yeah.
which to you may look like on the left because you're probably mirrored to what you can see, but the one on the right is the control pilot line,
Yeah.
and it's deliberately shorter.
All right.
Because it's as the plug is withdrawn, say it didn't latch properly, if you then pulled on it and started withdrawing it,
Yeah.
the shortest pin is the control pilot. What happens is when that pin loses contact,
Yeah.
the car must, within the standard, stop drawing power within a very short period of time, which is measured in, I think it's dozens of milliseconds.
Yeah.
And the idea of that is that before the rest of the plug leaves the vehicle,
Yeah.
the car's already stopped drawing power. But what I did hear you say with interest was you cleaned it with acetone. Is that what you said?
Oh no,
Sorry,
wasn't it?
that's what you said. Is that what you meant?
It was, yeah. No, isopropyl alcohol.
Oh, sorry. Okay, cool. Because
That's
you
right,
said, yeah, you said acetone, and I thought, oh no, because acetone is bad on plastic. And
No.
as you can see on that image there behind you, the pins, except for the center one, which is earth, the larger pins have got like a little black plastic cap that sits over the pins. So that's because even though it's a male connector, because it's a male connector, they've actually put little isolation plastic bits like nipples on top of the pins. But as an aside, on my car, one of those has gone away. It's vanished, but you don't need it. It's just a secondary protection. So what you're saying now, Pete, is that your car doesn't charge properly on AC?
Well, everything went red, and not only that, but the wall charger went red even when it was unplugged, which is bizarre. And but anyway, I sort of thought, well, gosh, I've got 200 kilometers, 280 kilometers to get of charge, and I've got to get 182 to get to servicing. So if I need to.
Okay, so firstly, with your charger, just hit the reset button on the side.
That's okay now.
Yes. Because
it is in fact charging now.
Right.
So, cool. But it wasn't for a while until we reverted the charger, and so I'm not quite, because everything is really clean, both in here as well, and the car side and in the socket, plug side. So everything's working now. So hopefully I don't have to go up there, urgently to get before the charge runs down below the 182 kilometers to get there. So
It might have been, obviously, if you've got bee or whatever detritus,
Yeah.
it might have smeared itself on the pins and not made very good contact. And then just simply the action of inserting and removing it a couple of times, trying it a couple of times after cleaning it, has probably made it come good.
I was really pretty diligent in cleaning. You know, I was about 20, 30, sort of cotton buds to sort it out. But anyway,
Yeah.
I think that's okay now.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I try and make a point of actually sticking it back into the hole on the charging unit. And
Oh yes, yeah, that's a good idea.
so they don't fly in there, because they do it on my multimeter and things like that. So really annoying things. Wasps normally do that. So that's a bit of a problem. And so I have a lot of problems with insects. When I was in Albany one time at night time, I sort of felt some ants on me, and I blew into the charger, into the plug, and of course blew out all these ants over me. And they'd laid eggs in there. So, I cleaned it all up for Albany's sake. Anyway, so that's finished anyway. The last thing I just was interested in, Joe Rogan's interview with Tesla, and he said that the Roadsters, the coal gas thruster is going to have a three tons of thrust, which is just pretty amazing, really. So.
Well, what that's going to do is it's going to basically halve the 0 to 100 performance of the Roadster. So the Roadster weighs about 2 tons. It can do 0 to 100 standard in about 2 seconds. But with the 3 tons of cold gas thrust that it's going to get, that will basically halve the 0 to 100 k/h acceleration down to, or time down to less than 1 second, like just under 1 second.
It will also enable the car to hover.
Well,
for a few seconds.
Well, that's what sort of Elon said. He would love it to do that, but then he goes, but it's probably not good if you kill someone. So like it's.
No, he was only in relation to how high he would hover. So he said, look, maybe it shouldn't hover at 2 or 3 meters high because someone could walk under it. Maybe we should limit how high it can get off the ground.
Speaking of that, on the Ryan McCaffrey Ride the Lightning Tesla unofficial Tesla podcast, and a shout out for Ryan for watching this show as well. Along with Elon in the same city. Someone did ring in and say that one issue was you can't be standing under this car when it's being lifted up by 3 tons of cold gas thrusters. It couldn't be 3 tons, because if it was 3 tons, it would actually be accelerating at half a G vertically. So you couldn't do that. But if it was hovering at 2 tons of thrust, it would kind of be blowing you out from under the car, and it would be really loud.
You probably have to. I was wondering, when he was saying that, I was wondering how far away would you need to be from the car for it to still, without blowing your umbrella away, how. Would it be as far as a chopper, or maybe more, or?
Well, 3 tons of thrust from small thrusters.
I mean, that's jet plane.
Yeah, well, they're coming out supersonic. Maybe it's not supersonic, but it's a lot of air coming out at a great rate of knots, and it's going to be loud. There's nothing going to be quiet about it. Because at the actual throat of the nozzle, it will be coming out supersonically. Make no mistake. I think the idea of a rocket nozzle is it then slows the actually it might speed up the flow, but reduces the pressure. But no, there's nothing friendly about it. There are no human beings going to be anywhere near this thing when it's being used. And
if there are, they won't stay there for very long.
and they'll get very cold, and they get very cold too.
Yeah, not if they've got any surface area to them, or or if they've.
It's going to be extremely cold because it's expanding. So
Yes.
what was room temperature will suddenly be icy cold. Yeah.
And the thing is, Tesla will have to develop they have to have a little water separator, because what they've said is it's not going to be nitrogen like they use in SpaceX. It's just going to use atmospheric air. So it's going to have a little compressor that as you're driving along or as it's parked, it's going to pump itself up in its composite overwrapped pressure vessels or vessel that replaces the small back seat in the back of the Roadster. And once that's all pumped up, then you can use it. But then once you've used it, you'll have to replenish it by having this little pump running. So obviously,
what did he say the pressure was? Was it 15,000 psi or something?
Oh, probably
crazy?
At least. Yeah, it's.
I think 10,000.
How much?
Yeah, 10,000
10,000, right?
psi.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous. Anyway.
So basically, if I want to buy an air compressor for my dive cylinders, I might as well just buy a Roadster.
Yeah, because what on your dive cylinders? Are they 100 bar?
232.
Right, well, the Roadster is going to have at 10,000 psi. That's over 700 bar.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. Oh, my 100% O2 is 200 bar, but yeah.
So 232 is equivalent to 3,365 psi.
Yep, sounds about right.
So it'll be 3 times the pressure.
Yep.
Of your diving cylinders. So look, Richard,
carbon over pressure vessels diving.
Well, the moral of today's AUA for you is you just need to get a Roadster and a Cybertruck.
Sure.
You're right.
I need a better job.
Problem solved.
Well, and I think the problem is solved too with the charging, because a Cybertruck goes so far, you could just drive all day, sleep all night, and it doesn't matter what rate of charge it is, it'll be finished by the morning.
I don't know. I'm still skeptical about that.
Just do it. Just get a reservation like everyone else has.
Oh no, no, I do. I have a reservation for the longest, for the tri-motor Cybertruck, but only for the range. But
yes, me too.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, well, actually, yes, it is. It's $135,000 landed in WA. Drive away, no more to pay.
Richard, when you say you're getting it only for the range, are you trying to tell me that you're not going to put your foot down?
Oh, absolutely.
0 to 100 in 2.9 seconds for something that can tow 7 tons and can hold 1.5 tons in the tray.
It will give me so much satisfaction to blast people off at the lights that have got big four-wheel drives.
To put it another way, you can out-tow a F-150 and out-drag a Porsche 911.
And you can probably put like a 2 square meter vinyl wrap sign on the side of it, like your company name, whatever.
Good point, actually.
Just before I go, I just got 2 Tesla firsts this last week. Number one, I actually had service come out to me. I got a bit of trim fell off, and I put in a thing, and they phoned me up and said, "Yeah, we'll come out." And they came out and fixed that nice and easy. And I've always driven up to them because I wanted to go up, but they said, "No, we'll come." So young Ben came down, and the other first was, after all this time I've had full self-driving, I actually tried to use auto park, and what a load of shit.
Oh, cruel. That's harsh. That's harsh.
Look, I just drive up and I reverse straight in. Well, I thought, look, auto park's come up. Let me just try that. And it goes in nice and straight, and then it goes on an angle and it goes out forwards and comes back and it couldn't get in. And I'm going, well, hold on, let me just show you. Whoomp, straight in. And I go, no.
Hey, Nigel, you tried with, look, I agree. It's still learning when it comes to perpendicular parking.
It was like a 2-year-old.
But it's not about that. But try with parallel parking, and it's as good as a
Oh, yeah.
average driver, if not better, and as fast too.
Yeah,
It's
look,
almost
this was just
flawless.
reversing into a perpendicular park in a car park.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there were cars all around, and
There is actually a knack to it. If you go past the parking spot and then you sort of go out at a specific angle and you get it right, it will come back in all in one go without having to go forward again. And
it came in straight, stopped, went out, and came back in on an angle. I'm going, what the? You could have just gone straight in. No. And so
it was just
that was
nervous.
a first and a last.
Well,
Yeah, it was his first time. He was just nervous.
but do what Pete suggests. Do try a parallel parking maneuver.
I'll try that next,
because it's basically flawless. The only thing I've got issue with it is that it will go too far forward.
Once it's finished, once it's already lined.
Once it's parallel, once it's in the bay, it wants to go within, say, 60 centimeters of the car in front of it.
Yeah.
So what you invariably have to do is, well, I just let it finish, and then I just put it in reverse and go back to where I want to be, which is in the center of the bay. It doesn't really center the bay. It just wants to be about 60 centimeters from the car in front of it, presuming there is one.
I mean, I can reverse park a trailer between two cars and so on. So, I mean, I reverse everything like that. So, I mean, you know, I reverse bank one go. I reverse into a parallel park one go. So when this thing took 10 goes and it was still on an angle, I just go, well, this is ridiculous. But I'll try the parallel park and I'll see if it's any better than me. And I'll report.
Oh, look, I don't. If you can reverse, if you can parallel park a trailer, then probably not better than you, but I'd say be as good, and probably as good, if not better, than an average driver.
So I'll measure it against the wife.
No, it measure it against yourself.
She cannot reverse park. She refuses.
Measure it against yourself on an average day. It will not beat your best, but it will certainly beat your worst. And
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Because you know sometimes you know how satisfying it is when you nail a parallel park because you get it just right and it's perfect. And then
I'm
other
satisfied
times
every time.
Well,
it's good. It's
parallel parking, you know.
Right. Oh, is that what? Oh, I was wondering what we were talking about then.
So modesty is also one of your greater traits too, Nigel.
Oh yes, I don't have any troubles with my ego whatsoever. Other people do, but not me.
But yeah, well, quite parallel.
I had a problem.
So anyway, I'm off. I'll see.
Oh, okay, you. Nigel. Thanks for coming.
Hopefully you're not off, just leaving. Can you see above the number 5? A little white dot?
No, I can just see Australia above number 5.
Oh, is that
the
cover for the screws?
No, you mean the chip.
No.
You mean the little chip?
On the
It's
car,
on the edge.
I had a little chip and I fixed it myself. It's not very good.
So above
while
the
I'm
5,
waiting.
above the 5 and the number 5.
No, it's
on the left,
it's where the line is, where the horizontal line is.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh, what happened there, Carmen?
Now what? Well, I was parallel parking, and I did not quite as well as Nigel, but I went straight in. Listen to this one, Nigel, though.
No,
and
you'll have to do it later.
He's
gone
already.
He's gone.
Okay, so it's in front of Claremont Quarter. They have baskets around trees that are steel but very thin, and it didn't do anything. I was slow, but I got too close. It kept going and hit the little metal.
Oh, was this while he was on Auto Park?
Sorry?
Was the car in Auto Park or were you driving?
No, I was driving. I don't think I have Auto Park.
No, you don't. Actually, that's a good point,
No,
Pete.
no,
Carmen doesn't because she hasn't got full self-driving.
No, I haven't.
So for anyone else watching,
And
at home, if you haven't got full self-driving, you can't do the automatic parallel park or
Yes,
perpendicular park.
yeah, so it was very slow and so on. And I think what may have happened is that a person came past on the pavement, and it did a little signal for that. And unless it was a signal for this at the same time, I don't know. But it's a tiny little chip, and I have fixed it with my acrylic paints for the moment until I get proper paint or get it done. I did go to McCarthy's in Netherlands, and they said it would be 5,000 to replace the whole. And I said, it's like a thumbnail. And I said, I'm not prepared to pay 700 excess to do that. There must be a better way. And they said, okay.
What's the Tesla repairer in Bayswater?
Someone I think is
McCarthy.
No, somewhere else. Pete,
No.
do you know who that is?
Is it not Prestige? Oh no, that's McCarthy's.
So
No.
Pete Ship, you were going to say something about?
Yeah, I think it was at Belmont or somewhere near Belmont where that other one was. I can't remember the name, but it was over there, I think.
If anyone knows, if you can put it in the comment section of the video, maybe Damon or Ashley or Elon, if you know, just put it in the comment section. You can do it under a pseudonym.
Someone has given me one of those people that come around and do the touch-ups. But is anyone able to? Can they get the Tesla color paint?
Yes.
Or anybody
Okay.
can get it?
No, yes.
Oh, in that
anyone
case,
can get the paint because
yeah,
paint is like
someone will do.
Yeah.
It's a generic code.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
One great thing about
Okay.
car paint, is all the manufacturers have agreed that there's no secret sauce in the paint, or there might be special things in the paint, but any proper smash repairer can match paint.
Okay.
Regardless of which.
Well, there is a guy that charges $250, and he'll come to the house.
Cool.
So as long as he can get the paint, I think that's a better option.
Oh,
because it's quite small.
It's better than
It was black when it happened, and I didn't like that showing, so I've just touched it up for now, but it's a bit annoying, so I'm not very impressed.
Actually, Carmen, I don't know if it's, I know throughout the rest of the world, Tesla have declared that they are going to undertake minor bodyworks, panel work.
Oh, yes.
To be honest, I don't know if that applies in Perth.
No, I asked Harry, and he said not at the moment.
Yeah,
Well,
I asked Adam.
I had my car touched up. I had tiny little scratches at the lowest panel on the side of the car. And yeah, when the guys came out to do something else on the car, I put it in the notes, and yeah, they came out with the color and just touched it up.
Well, I might do that because.
But yours is in a fairly prominent position.
Yeah.
So mine was hard to see at the best of times.
Yeah.
Whereas yours is in a prominent position, and it's fairly large. I mean, it looks like it was a couple of 50-cent pieces wide.
No, it's a thumbnail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've just enlarged it. Enlarged it. And well, my neighbor tells me that I've only got one brake light working. I'm assuming there are two, but I can't.
Oh, sorry. Was he talking about the reversing light? Because the Model 3s only have one reversing light. The other one's reserved for a fog light. Yeah,
Oh,
so you'll get that quite often. Yeah, it's the Model 3 only has one single white reversing light.
oh, okay. Well,
Yes.
that explains that. Because I was going to find out if that I'd have to have it fixed, I suppose. So it's on the left side.
Yep.
There is one, and I tried to have a look at it myself. However, I couldn't, because when you put the car in park, you can't activate the reverse.
One pro tip, Carmen, is just drive somewhere where, well, there's a car park, and you've got like a shop front with lots of windows. And especially if it's nighttime, it's even easier. But even it works in the daytime, and you can see the reflection behind. If you sort of reverse towards the windows, you can see the reflection, and that way you can test indicators, brake lights, whatever.
Yes.
But unfortunately, unlike the Model X, which I have, which has got 2 reversing lights, the S and the 3s, they economize and just have 1 reversing light on one side, and they use the other side for 1 red fog light.
Okay. Oh, well, that's okay, as long as that's all it has. It's
totally
no problem.
normal. And to make you feel a bit better, I know my kids' Konas have the same setup, and many cars have just the 1 reversing light, which is a bit crazy, because you then lose that 3D. In a distance, you can't tell how far away a car is at nighttime when it's reversing, because all you see is 1 light. A bit like motorbikes.
Yes.
Yeah, my Mercedes Sprinter's only got 1. It's a cheapskate. Europeans often do it.
Shocking, you know.
Yeah.
For 1 bulb, it's pathetic.
It is. Look, it should be, to be honest, it should be an Australian design rule that you have 2 fog lights if you know, as an option, but at least 2 reversing lights. Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, well, that's the extent of the misdemeanors at the moment. I was really annoyed because that basket around the tree, you could hardly see, and it's very sharp. And I expected the car to stop, but obviously it didn't see it.
No, actually, the car is designed to, I think if you're like full throttle it and you've got obstacle aware acceleration, it might stop, but there's a setting in the car that still lets you slowly push into objects. And I think it's mainly because if the ultrasonics are faulty, you don't want to cripple the car. So, and I think what you were saying before when you said that there was someone to the left, or on the
it was just at the same time, because it was very close to the paving, and people were walking the whole time.
Yeah, and I dare say, it probably lined up. One pro tip is, if you're approaching something close, have a look on your screen, because it will show the distance and actually visibly show like a representation of the object, sort of, as it detects it.
It didn't do that, so I think it was too low.
Oh, and that's another point too, is you're going to be careful. Sometimes you have like limestone blocks, or not so much a curve, but like a low limestone block or a low wall, and the ultrasonics won't pick that up if it's too low, but it can still damage. But I think in your case, Carmen, it was higher up, but it probably just had the sound at the same time.
Yes, there is a guy that Harry suggested, if it's the accredited BMW body shop, Mirage. It's Mirage painters, spray painters.
Yep.
And apparently they have the paint.
Where
they will also do it. I've got a number.
No, whereabouts are they? Is there a suburb?
Yes, I think it's called Mirage.
Yeah,
Hold on.
Mirage. Yeah.
Yeah, Mirage
They're in Belmont. I think they're the
Painters
ones.
Company. Yes, they're the ones, are they?
I think.
Yeah, I've just got a number and an email.
Yeah. So Peter Ship, I think they're the ones. I think it's Mirage. That sort of rings
Yes.
a bell.
I'm pretty sure it's Belmont, so that sounds right. And they're
Yeah.
supposed to be very
Yeah.
good.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the alternative. Yeah.
187 Campbell Street in Belmont.
Yeah,
Mirage.
thanks, Pete. Yeah,
spray
let's
painted.
put that up on the screen. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the one that Harry suggested.
Yep.
So I'll either check with them or check with the guy that came next door. My next door neighbor had reversed back into a parked car, which wasn't supposed to be there because there's no parking. But
Oh, so clearly it's the parked car's fault.
yes, but they
dear.
didn't want to know about it. So he did a little dent, and these people came out and were very efficient, and you can't tell.
Yeah, cool.
So
well, it doesn't
yeah,
hurt
so that's
to maybe give Mirage a call and pop
the
over
call.
there
Yes,
and
yes,
just to get a quote, you know.
yes, yes. And if as I say, it's not very big, so it wouldn't. But it's a process, I suppose. It doesn't matter whether it's a bit bigger or smaller, but it's in a very bad spot. Yeah.
Well, don't forget, if you had
Yeah.
the equivalent of liquid paper and you just put liquid paper on there.
Yeah. I put nail polish on top of my acrylic paint.
Even better because you can remove it, which is great. So
yeah.
So that's really good. That's actually probably a really good move, to be honest.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you're paying someone money to fix that fault,
yeah, I'd like to do it properly.
They need to do it really well, so it's not visible, and
Yes.
that's difficult to do. So
Yes. That's what McCarthy said, that they wouldn't bother because they probably wouldn't get a perfect finish, and they would only do it if it was replaced.
But to be perfectly honest, I don't think a bumper and to spray just the plastic, because the bumper is in several pieces, like there's the skin of the bumper, which is what you see. I can't imagine that being $5,000 just quietly. I just don't get
no, well, he didn't give me a written quote. Maybe he had too much work and didn't want to be bothered.
Well, Carmen, I don't actually think McCarthy's do that themselves. I think they sub that out to someone else. So maybe that's why he wasn't that keen on it.
Possible.
And hence the price, because
yeah. So the other question is, I'm going to Busselton, and of course there is Bunbury, if the Tesla charger at Eton is not that far, but is there a particular one you recommend in Busselton?
You'd come back to Eton because I was down to Margaret River on the weekend. I charged at Eton on the way down. I didn't need to, but I did. I went down to Margaret River, zoomed around down there a bit and came back to Eton and did it very easily. And I didn't stay slow. I stayed as fast as the speed limit or a bit higher. So Eton is all you need, I reckon.
Yes. Okay. And if I do a bit of traveling around Busselton, I do have a 15 amp cord, but I would have to get and I'm staying at Busselton Beach Resort, so they probably have a three-phase amp power point. Is that the best? I'm going to be there for a few days.
Well, actually, Carmen,
is that the best?
If you go to Busselton Central, the shopping centre, they've actually got free charging there.
Okay.
So, opportunistically, if you sort of did a little bit of shopping or just a little bit of browsing.
Yes, I have to. Yeah.
Yep. Well, you get charging there for free.
Yes.
There are 2 chargers there. I'll just put that up on the screen. It's the Busselton Central, which they're just
Kent Street,
standard Tesla chargers.
Okay.
and basically you can just charge there opportunistically, or if you have a
Yes.
coffee, or I mean,
Oh,
that's
yes,
very
no.
close to the center of town.
Yeah.
So if you spend a couple of hours there, you're
Yes.
going to get 140 kilometers extra range
Yes, easily.
without
Oh, well,
bothering.
I'll do that. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
do that when I go shopping because I'm going with the grandchildren.
Yes.
So we'll be going out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a great spot because it's not too
Mm.
far from the center of town, so you can, and there's, I was going to say there's milk bars, but there's, cafes and whatever.
Yes, yes.
Now there obviously also is a fast DC charger in Busselton if you wanted to use it, but to be honest, I don't think you'd need to.
Need to know.
And now that's one that Tokwa has fixed, or we've provided the fix for, so that works.
Is that one of the old RAC? Yeah.
Yeah, RAC, but it works on Model 3s now.
I'll take a photo.
Yep, cool. Because I tested my car on New Year's Day.
Oh, okay.
On CCS, so that worked perfectly well.
Also, Carmen,
fabulous.
a lot of the wineries down south, a lot of them have got destination charges or other charges, and most
Okay.
of those are free. Yeah, so if you
Yes.
go for a lunch or something like that at the winery,
Yeah, we will be. Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, there's a couple of the wineries along here. If you just get the Plug Share app,
Yes,
and
I've got that. Mhm.
swings and roundabouts. I think that's a Porsche one from memory. Could be wrong. No, it's a. Yes, it is. That's a Porsche.
But you can use that with your Model 3.
Yes, you can. Yes.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, as Peter Ship was saying, it's Busselton is not far, and again, if you just go to the Busselton Central, you can.
Yes, I'll be doing shopping and doing bits and pieces out.
Yep, and
Perfect.
if you bring your charger with you, the one in the boot, you can just plug it into a 10 amp outlet, and overnight you'll get 100 Ks. Easy.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's easy. Yeah.
Yeah. And what you can do is, depending on where you're staying, if they've got something like a Renai gas hot water service, like an instant one,
yes,
there'll be a power point outside.
Yes.
So if you just bring like a double adapter, or well, that might be the easiest. You could just plug into something like that, which is on the outside of the house.
So house. Okay.
Wherever you're staying. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
No, it's Boston Resort. Sorry. So
yeah.
You might have to look around, but
yes.
And actually, you could just ring them and say, "Hey, look, do you have any 10 amp outlets?
Yes.
Any standard power points?"
Yeah. And
Carmen, sorry, just while I remember it, have you got a Type 2 to Type 2 cable? Have you got the?
Yes. And just in the
because you might need that for some of the wineries.
Okay. In that black box, it's got the 2, and then I got a 15 amp cord as well.
Oh no. So
yeah, go Pete.
I know. So that's a different cable. So what you have in the Tesla packet,
yes,
that's what's called a UMC, or a universal mobile connector. So that's where you've got the 10 amp and the 15 amp. The Type 2 to Type 2 is a separate cord altogether. If you don't have one,
no.
Harold, have we got some of those?
Yeah. So we can lend you a Type 2 cable, Carmen, for free. So as a member.
And maybe even a 5-pin 3-phase adapter.
When are you going, Carmen?
Next Monday morning.
Oh, sorry, you mean this one coming up?
Yes.
I can always lend mine if it's an issue.
I've got one, but I'll be in Calgary, so
yeah, I'll see how we go. We should be okay. It's just that we've got a few adapters that are out on loan at the moment.
Is that the one I've got, Harold?
Sorry, say again, Lester.
Is that the one I've got?
No. What you What you've got is the type 2 to type 2.
Yeah, right. Because I got to bring that back to you sometime this week.
Yeah, you can just do a dead drop, just on that bench seat.
Yeah.
Which I think you picked up. Yeah. Sorry, you did. You
I
did
did pick it up there and left
That's
those
right,
sprays
yes.
there, but I wanted to speak to you about getting you were going to build one for me as well. I was going to
Oh,
buy
no. Yeah. Sorry. Yes. A new
So
one. Yes. Sorry.
I'll give you a ring or something and
Yes,
make
you were
arrangements.
yeah.
So
That's
that
right. You were going to buy one. Yeah. Sorry. Yes.
So you were there at the time, and I can just do the deal with you.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah. No. Yeah. You were going to buy a new one. I wasn't going to sell you the loan one because it's used. I'd obviously sell you a new one.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. I just wanted you to be there, and
Yeah. Of course. No. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Just give me a buzz next day or so or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
No rush.
Yep. All good.
Oh, well, if between now and then you have one available, I can pick it up.
Yeah. That's cool. You've got mine. Oh, you got my number, Carmen, because
Yes.
Harry gave it to you.
I'm not giving that up.
But yes, no, we'll have something for you that you can use. So you'll have a type 2 cable, and I'll get a actually, Pete, I don't think there's any 32 amp stuff out there.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I was just thinking
I don't
as soon
think
as I
it's
said
useful,
that.
to be honest.
Yeah.
There's really nothing there that needs it because it's just so well provided for. Yeah.
But a type 2, definitely. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
type 2,
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's it.
Cool. That'd be awesome. And the best thing is this time you'll know that when you navigate to Busselton, if it tells you to go via Kojonup, you just via Kojonup or after the river, you just
Corrigan.
Yes, no, I know that we don't have to go there because I've been to the Eaton Charger, and that's fabulous. Yeah.
Oh, it is, yes.
Yeah.
And Lester, you might not be aware of this, but Carmen had her car for less than a week, and she went down to Albany.
I have to show him. He won't believe it if he's worried about that.
Yes. What did you arrive at your sister's place with?
I can show you. I kept that because it won't happen again. So I kept that photo on here. Here we go.
You gotta go up a little bit.
Have a little.
0, isn't it?
No, next to it.
4 kilometers.
Yeah, you got there.
Oh, wow.
In the dark.
Is anyone better at that?
Oh yeah, of course. But
I think I hold the record.
Well, you definitely hold the record for.
It was at night as well.
For a new owner, for a brand new owner, to successfully arrive somewhere with 4Ks left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 10. It was at night, and it took 10 hours to get there.
Yes.
Yeah, you beat me. I had about 10, 15 Ks left, and I was having a nervous breakdown.
Oh, well, I was okay because I was talking to Harold the whole way.
Okay.
And it's funny because I was in Denmark or somewhere. I was a long way away, and thinking, oh my God, what are we going to do? This is difficult, but got there in the end. That was the main thing.
Yes. Yes.
As far as getting somewhere, I've often gotten to within 1 or 2 kilometers, and I arrived at Nanyatara with 0 kilometers.
Oh wow!
Indicated, yeah. So it can be done. You just got to. There's just a knack to it, but.
What happens if you're out in the back of Burke or somewhere, not literally, but out the back of somewhere, and you actually do run out of fuel. What?
You get a tow truck.
No, well, actually, it's one unique thing about Teslas, or well, not maybe just Teslas, but electric cars.
Yeah.
Unlike, say you got a petrol or a diesel fueled car, all you can do is put fuel in it. That's all you can do. That's it. You've got to get fuel in there somehow.
Yep.
And I remember running out of fuel at about the turn of the century, a few Ks out of Ceduna. No, Penong. Sorry, no, Penong. Just a few Ks out of Penong. And it was 2 o'clock in the morning. And I had to get a lift in a truck. And like about 20 trucks went past and no one stopped. And then they finally spoke to each other and said, oh yeah, someone better stop for this guy. He's obviously not an axe murderer. And I got to Penong, bought a 5-litre can, put 5 litres of petrol in it, got a lift with another truck back to my car. And then I found out that it's like a lawnmower can, with the little nozzle that comes out, and it wouldn't
go in.
Fit into my, what's the name, into the thingy.
Petrol outlet.
Petrol, yeah. So all I ended up doing was just effectively splashing it, sort of thrusting it towards the nozzle. Because I knew all I needed was probably 500 mils to do the 20 kilometers, to Penong. So I was sort of splashing it in there and then got to Penong and filled up. Anyway, for a Tesla,
even a shoe would have been better than that.
I wasn't going to use a shoe. There's no way. So anyway, with a Tesla, what you could actually do if you're dead flat is just get flat towed, as in tow rope with all wheels on the ground.
Yeah.
And you effectively put your car in drive, and it basically regenerates the energy into the battery. So the towing car pulls you along, and as it's pulling you along, that drag is putting in energy into your battery. And you basically get, I can't remember it, it's several times more range than the distance you've been towed. I can't exactly remember how
Like
far that is.
regenerative braking sort of thing.
It's like the regen braking.
Yeah.
And there was a video I saw, and I remember describing it a couple of weeks ago I think it was in Russia, where a car was being towed. And I did find that video the next day. And yeah, it's basically being towed behind like a class B truck, like a single truck, with what looks like 2 bits of bed sheeting. It's sort of like a bit of whatever material, and it's being towed, recharging the car. So if you're in the middle of nowhere stuck, you don't need to charge a car. You can just get towed at at the worst.
Yes. Well, that's good to know. I thought I would. I was envisaging having to call a tow truck.
And I think Tesla will tow you for free once.
Oh.
So you're sort of like allowed one, let's call it misdemeanor or unlucky event, but they don't do it twice.
Is that only within 50 Ks of Perth, or is that anywhere?
I think that's within 50 Ks of Perth as well. So, yeah. So,
Carmen, alternatively, what you can do is you can have that car tow you up a hill, a very tall hill, and then you can ride downwards, as I did. And I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can.
Minus 42.
Yeah. What hours per kilometre? So that was my efficiency. It was negative minus 42. That was down Greenmount Hill.
So if you could keep going downhill, Pete, you'd have infinite energy. Like you could just keep going forever.
What's it called? A
perpetual motion machine.
Perpetual motion machine. Yeah, I was trying to think of the Latin term for it, but yeah.
There's a video.
How can you control it going downhill?
Oh, it's no problem. You just feather as you take your accelerator. you can just do it on cruise control. So
Oh, okay.
so even like at Greenmount Hill or Welsh Pool Road from Kalamunda, it will just maintain 70 k's an hour and just use the regenerate that energy to slow you down.
Right.
So it does that really well. So it'll just stick to 70 k's an hour, but regenerate all that energy. So you see all the petrol cars, and they've all got their brake lights on because
Yes.
otherwise they speed up too much, and they're wasting energy. Whereas in our
Yeah.
cars, it just goes back into the battery.
Yeah. Ooh.
That's really cool.
Oh no, I charge it every day now. When I go shopping or if I have to go on an appointment or whatever, I come home, I put my mobile on charge and the car on charge same time. It's automatic.
Well, really, it's like having a mobile phone.
Yeah,
The difference
yeah.
is mobile phone will last a day, and then you'll have to recharge it. If you forget to recharge it
Yeah.
that night,
Yeah.
you're gone for the next day. But
Yeah.
you know, with a long range Model 3, you charge it to only 80%, and you've got
Yes.
10 days worth of
Yeah.
driving. So you can
Well, you
forget
do,
to charge it
but
8-9 times and still.
so I but because I have slowed down the rate of charge to fit in with the solar panels, I have slowed it down to 5.6 kilowatts. It takes longer. So I just automatically charge it. It's a few hours a day and it's easy.
Yeah, trickle
on
charge.
at
Best way
lunchtime.
to go.
Yeah.
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 Best way to
And-
charge is to charge
Yeah.
frequently. Yep.
And it's quite easy because it's in the garage and it's just automatic now. It doesn't matter. And normally I just put it on at lunchtime and let it go till it tells me it's done. Yeah. So
Cool.
yeah. So I shouldn't need it around here. And when I'm going to go a bit further, I now plan.
One day you won't have to. Once there's fast DC chargers everywhere,
Yes. Yeah.
it won't matter. But
No. For the moment, but it's terrific. I love it. It's working very well. Sometimes it does little odd things by itself, but I've gathered from the conversations that it does. There was an update yesterday and the notes are not released. It won't release the notes?
The one yesterday was just minor improvements and bug fixes. Nothing to
Okay.
write home about. Yeah.
Okay.
sometimes when you press on the release notes, nothing. It just shows blank. It doesn't really mean to, but it's nothing bad. It's just like Pete said, just minor stuff.
Yes. So I figure that eventually, if they decide to, they'll let us know.
Sometimes it doesn't. That screen doesn't work properly. Sometimes. But it's only minor. Although there might be a major update in the next month or so.
Okay.
Mainly to do with the full self-driving, but I think it's also going to change some of the rest of the look of the main screen.
Well, we're waiting for that button.
Yes, but Carmen, you've got to cough up the $10,100 to qualify.
I'm waiting for my Tesla shares to go up. They're going down.
They are today.
And they've opened down today too.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's okay. It'll go up. I saw that Kathy Wood was saying that they've worked out they'll go up to 3,000 by 2023.
25.
25.
25.
Yeah, that's their base case. They had a 4,000 or 4 trillion market cap, roughly $4,000 share price as their bull case and $1,500 as their bear case. That's gone up from their previous target was $1,400 by 2024. So it's an extra year, but double the price. But
But
whilst we're on a spiral, so I bought some at 800, and then I bought some at 740 or something like that to average it out. and I'm waiting till they go under 600 to buy any
Well, the-
more. So while it's going on a spiral down, we'll just let it keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
I know.
buy more.
I know a guy that wanted. Sorry, go, Lester.
Sorry?
Oh, sorry, no, sorry. Doesn't. Sorry, I thought you said something.
No, I just checking the share price out. I haven't got any, but it's
6.
What I was going to say
It's
is
643.
So,
Yeah.
so Carmen, I know a guy that wanted to buy some shares at under $600, but didn't quite make it. So you can average down,
Yeah.
but sometimes it's useful if you're in the mood to buy shares, and this is not personal financial advice, because anything in this show is of a general nature, and you should make your own inquiries. But
Disclaimer.
if you have this feeling that you want to buy some shares, you might as well just buy them at whatever price they are. If you're a long-term holder,
The holder,
because as Pete,
Yes.
being an ex-stockbroker, would well know, it's people talk about timing the market, but often it is time in the market, sort of.
Look, it's the same as real estate, and there's no point in waiting till the bottom of the barrel. It's just being somewhere in the ballpark figures. So I saved about $80 between 2 lots. Instead of buying them all at once, I just bought a modest amount and then repeated. And if it appears to be a bargain, I'll get some more. If not, I'll just wait and see.
One important note about ARK Invest's price targets is they differ from most analysts' price targets in that what Kathy Wood is saying is that she believes that Tesla's base case will be in 2025, Tesla's share price will be $3,000. But that's not $3,000 in today's money. It will be $3,000 in 2025 money.
Yes.
So shout out to Rob Mauer, who also watches the show, along with Elon and everyone else. He did quite well explain that if you discount that back to today's money, and his discount rate was 10% per annum, which I don't know whether that's high or not, but it's peaked 10%. He basically says that that's the equivalent of $2,000 in today's money. But what that means is, if you believe that case, your $650 investment is actually worth $2,000 right now. So that's sort of telling you, if you believe that case, that Tesla shares are cheap.
Yes.
At today's price.
In terms of the 10% discount rate, I think he mentioned Alex Potter uses, so he's got the highest target on the street at the moment, apart from Kathy Wood. And so he uses 10% for discounting his cash flows back to today's dollars. So for Tesla.
Because I guess he's rightly saying that, well, why would you bother investing in something if you didn't get 10% profit per annum?
Return, yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't bother.
Worth it. Yeah, you wouldn't bother.
No.
So the 3,000. Go, Pete.
The discount rate's got, there's really 2 parts to it. So technically it comes back, from the model that they use. So it's supposed to be a proxy for the risk-free rate. So it's supposed to be the bond rate, but we know bond rates are, for the 10 years, about 1.6% in the US. The problem is, if you just use the risk-free rate for every investment, then you're saying that whether you're if you're putting money down on red or black at the casino, or if you're investing in bonds, because the discount rate is a proxy for risk. So you're basically saying both have the same amount of risk, which they obviously don't. So you've got to, so the riskier the asset, the higher the opportunity cost that you'd want to demand. So the more risk you take, the higher the threshold should be.
So it's a
your minimum return threshold.
Well, it makes sense, because otherwise you do safer type investing. Yeah.
Well, it's a bit like if you have just money in the bank where you're guaranteed 1% return.
Yes.
If you have something that's sort of 10 times riskier,
Yes,
where
yes.
you might lose your money and you have 10
Yes.
investments, you say,
Yes.
well, I want a bigger return because on
Of
average,
course,
1 in
yeah.
10 of those will fail, or you know,
Yes.
however
Yes.
it goes.
Yeah.
Well, actually 10
Yeah.
times as many
Yes.
of those investments
Yes.
will fail.
Yes.
So you want that
Yes.
compensation.
No, I get that. I actually do a little bit of investing in property syndicates. So I don't buy property and hold it and rent it and maintain it. I do that for other people. But I invest small sums in property developments with reputable companies. And
So are you
it's
talking
not.
like are you talking like the big ones like Pete and those sorts? Or?
No, Scope
Okay. Yep.
and a Cure. They're pretty steady, and I've been doing it for about 15 years, and it averages between 9 and 14% per year. So it's diversified, and it's supposed to be riskier than other projects, but it's worked very well and it's consistent. It's no problem. So that's another one that I do, but that's so investing in just property syndicates, and that works quite well.
Again, that's not personal financial advice. That's just
no, it's not.
Generally.
No, it's not, and it is higher risk than the banks and everything else, but it's relative to the return.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's just the main point, getting back to Kathy Wood, was they do describe that target price in a different term, which is in the future money.
Sure, yes.
Not discounted back to
So
today.
yeah.
And also what's quite unusual is most of the Wall Street analysts put out 12-month targets, whereas they put out they've got a longer investment time horizon. So
I did read that it was about a minimum of 5 years. Her targets.
They are. Yeah, I think they aim for a 15% per annum return, which means you get double your money every 5 years. So it's their aim. Yeah. But I wanted to make mention of risk. So when people talk about risk in the financial markets, they're often referring to volatility rather than risk, or they're using volatility as a substitute for risk, because that's the only way you can quantify risk mathematically is via variability of returns or fluctuations in the share price. But just because one share price fluctuates more than another doesn't necessarily mean it's riskier than another. So mathematically it may, but in reality it doesn't. So I've often held the belief that, and it's 180 degrees opposed to what's normally accepted, which is that the more volatile an asset, the more desirable, all else being equal, because the more volatile it is, the more prospects, of, obviously bigger losses, but your losses are limited to zero if you're not leveraging your shares, and the upsides, theoretically unlimited. So the higher the potential upside. So, so people say, well, I won't invest in Tesla shares, they're too volatile. I won't invest in Bitcoin, they're too volatile. So I say, well, if you were to invest 10 cents in Bitcoin, would that keep you up at night? Is that too volatile? They say, well, no. I go, well, of course. So what you're not telling me that you're not investing in Bitcoin because it's too volatile. What you're telling me is that the amount you want to invest in Bitcoin is too much and it would keep you up at night. So don't invest that much. And so by default, if you can put in a less amount and still get the same return because it's more volatile, it means that by nature it's less risky because you didn't have to commit as much capital to it. So less capital at risk for the same amount of return. Hence, you could argue it's a less riskier investment. I mean, that's, like I said, completely 180 degrees opposite to what any stockbroker or anyone else in the industry will have been taught, and that's it's exactly the opposite of what I was taught at uni. But yeah, that's the way I look
Well,
at
I think that applies to this type of syndicates. One of them is Karratha Shopping Centre, for example, and it's but you don't have to have a certain. There are different amounts that you can invest, and really, I look at how much the land is worth and the buildings. If it all went belly up. And usually it makes sense. It's not as bad as it sounds. And people do say, well, what about if somebody builds a new shopping centre? But it's going to take quite some time to do that, and we would know about it. So it works. Some of them are just warehouses. And I find that much easier than buying. Well, you also don't need the amount of capital to buy property as such and hold it and maintain it and then pay capital gains tax when you sell it. You need a lot more funds.
Yeah, with the syndicates, you still got to pay capital gains tax.
Yes, I suppose. But I guess there's smaller amounts at different times rather than in lump sums, like you would if you bought a $500,000 apartment. So you couldn't have too many of those.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So you spread out more. Yeah.
Yes, and it's unlikely that 3 or 4 or 5 projects would all go at the same time.
Yeah, it sort of spreads the risk, and also it can average out the returns. So it sort of you might theoretically get a better return with a single asset, but of course you could get a lesser return.
Yes.
So you're sort of aggregating everything. It's almost a little bit like you could invest in Tesla, or you could invest in the S&P 500.
Yes.
The S&P 500 is leveraged to Tesla, but to a lesser degree.
Yes.
And obviously, what you may or may not want to do is have contra flowing assets. Like, well, maybe you do. So, perhaps in a property boom, you want property, but in a bust, you might want an investment in a liquidation company or something. Like you want something that's contra sort of flow, so that on average it's all roughly the same, going through cycles.
Yes.
But
and
all
the cycles are a little bit different, but still it's diversified. And yes, I mean, it's always the risk, isn't it? If you want to have a big win, you have to have a big input. But
unless you're Nostradamus and you know what to pick, and hindsight,
unless you hold the investment for a very long period.
A long time, yes. Well, there are around here. There is properties. I sold the property last month, which had cost the owner $175,000, but it was 55 years ago, and it sold for 2.4 million for the kids. He's gone.
But that's 175, 50 years ago is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So you'd have to almost question on the return on investment. Was that actually put in?
No, well, it was his house. It was his house, and he lived in it all his life, and then he died.
Yes.
And the kids have sold it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So you can't go wrong if you hold something that long. You know, there are times, but it was his own home.
Well, there is that. There is the restaurant at the end of the universe in what's it called? What's that fictional series?
It's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
That's it. Thanks, Peter. That's the one. Where the theory is, I forget, you put $1 in an investment account and it gets very little interest per annum, but because it stays there for like an almost infinite amount of time until the universe ends. Anyone that's put in this $1 gets enough money, which is almost like an infinite amount of money, to afford a seat or a table at the restaurant at the end of the universe, because it just relies on compound annual growth
Growth,
sort of
yeah.
forever. And
Yeah.
that's sort of the extreme version
Yes,
of
version.
hold them
Yeah.
long enough and
Yeah.
it'll be okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of people just want to buy something, sell it in 2 years and double their money. And it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, but
No,
see,
not often.
see, but once you've doubled your money and you've taken your cash out and you've paid
Yeah.
your capital gains tax, what do you do then with your money? You know, if
you
it
do
is,
it again.
yeah, but well, you know, but yeah, speaking of, so the famous case with Bitcoin is the 2 Papa John's pizzas in May 2010. That was the first Bitcoin transaction. At the time, a Bitcoin was worth 0.03 of a cent. So he had to use 10,000 Bitcoins to pay for the 2 pizzas. And now they'd be worth, you know, several $100 million. Well, 10,000 Bitcoin, but what's it called? So the Bitcoin price now, as we speak, is 56,000 US. So 10,000 times 56,000. So $560 million US. So
that's insane.
He paid $500 million for 2 pizzas. So, but you know, you could argue if you didn't make that first transaction, you know, which you know, then, and if someone had to have made that first transaction, and you know, without it, the Bitcoin might not have been worth what it is now. So.
Well, the point is, I mean, and people say this about real estate, you don't sell if you're not going to make any money unless you have a problem. And if you have a problem, you can't use normal logic. So you just don't sell. It's not that mystified. You just hold it. And it's not like perishables. If you're in fruit and vegetables, or I used to be in hospitality. So if you're in hotel rooms and you don't sell the hotel room that day, it's perishable.
Yeah, or even gold, you know, in order to hold gold, you got to pay for holding costs. You got to pay for someone to store it for you, and you know, so
So bricks and mortar, it's fine, and shares the same. You just have to hold on to them unless a company goes broke, and so on. Then you.
Well, Warren Buffett's favorite holding period. Yeah, Warren Buffett's favorite holding period is forever. So.
Yes. Yes, that would work, but you need to depends on the dividends. You need to get something out of it. If you do forever and you're gone, what's the point of it?
Well, yeah. So, and that's borne out in the numbers. So, if you look at any sort of brokerage or any of the accounts, especially if they're leveraged, the accounts that do the best at any brokerage generally are either a person, you know, the owner has either passed away some time ago, or they didn't realise they had the shares. So, because they would have sold it otherwise.
If they have.
That's why those accounts have done really well, because one of the hardest things for humans to do is just to let things be.
But there are people that don't know they have shares.
Oh yeah, well, they can forget. But you know,
What? Because you have dementia? Oh.
Well, no.
You might have got some in a dividend reinvestment plan, and before you got them, you sold your main parcel, and you know, or
had a few left.
Yeah, or you thought you had, you know, 500 when you were in reality had 505, and you sold your 500, and 5 were left over, or.
Yeah, in fact, that's a good point, Pete, because you can, this happened to me. I sold 2 Telstra shares, and I thought I sold my entire holding, but I actually got a dividend because I had the shares past a certain record date. I had a dividend reinvestment plan issuance after I'd sold the shares. So then I ended up with like a residual amount of Tesla shares.
But not non-marketable parcel, so you couldn't sell it. Well, if you sold it, the brokerage would have been more than.
Yeah, I haven't bothered, so I've just left it on the shelf.
Yeah.
And I literally don't care what their value is because it's sort of a rounding error. But
It's
again,
just unfortunate that it was Telstra rather than Tesla, because if it was Tesla, it might have actually been worth something. But Telstra, what are they worth? 350 still? Or
Not much.
I was away when you were talking. Yep. Hang on. So hang on a sec, Carmen. I was away when you were saying about I did hear the 10,000 Bitcoins for the pizza, but that, just on my numbers, it was about $740 million Australian.
So maybe are you doing Australian?
Yeah, I just did Australian because on my
I worked out at 560 million US.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah, cool, yeah. Because on my Bitcoin wallet, it just shows it in Bitcoin in Australian dollars, and it was $74,000
Awesome.
Australian.
Wow.
So the 10,000 is $740 million. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Pete, but that's worth more than Tesla's market cap not that long ago. Like,
True.
So
True.
one pizza was equivalent to the market cap of the current price of a pizza was the market cap of Tesla a few years ago.
What's its current market cap? It's
Tesla's
636 billion US. Yeah.
Yes.
So 560 billion US versus 630 billion. So Tesla's market cap is only $100 billion more than the two pizzas.
Oh no, it's 700. Yeah. Well, that's right. Yeah. It's and there's all those stories that of people that had Bitcoin on their hard drive and they threw it out because it was only just play money for them. And I mean, I know a guy that had a Bitcoin miner, who thought he was clever, like, using a bit of power, which cost, a couple of $1,000s. And all he had was a couple of $1,000s worth of Bitcoin because it was a fraction of a Bitcoin. Now that fraction is $45,000.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's quite amazing. But that
you're talking about yourself there, Harold?
Yeah. And a shout out to the ATO, Mr. ATO man. Point of order. I don't get a capital gain or any income until I dispense or sell the Bitcoin. So when I sell it, then I'll let you know. But I haven't sold it yet.
But Harold, I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but with any digital currencies or cryptocurrencies, there's a personal usage limit or whatever it's called. So if you spend less than $10,000 and you didn't buy it for investment purpose, which you really did it just to learn about it. I mean, you weren't doing it to make money out of it.
I didn't actually buy any. I mined it.
Exactly. So when you were mining, you weren't doing it to make money.
It literally was for the interest, it was for the fun of it because
experience.
We're trying to learn about how it works.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you would have spent less than $10,000 worth of electricity and less than 10,000.
Yes.
So that should qualify, not tax advice, but that should fit under that exemption. So even when you sell it, it should be capital gains tax exempt.
So you mean to say because I spent less than $10,000 on it, which I did, because it was probably about $2,000 in electricity, that when I buy my Cybertruck, with the half a Bitcoin, which would be worth $135,000 by then, and it's not personal advice, that may not be considered a
capital gains tax. Yeah, exactly. Because but yeah, I think it goes to intention and you know, the
intention was easy
$10,000
to
rule. And so, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious you weren't doing it, you know.
Well, I
to-
wasn't doing it to make money because
Well, it was
You would
costing
have
you
made more.
It cost you more in electricity than, you know. So
well, it did. Well, that's why I stopped. That's actually why I turned the mine off, because it was costing more in electricity than the Bitcoin was worth. And I thought, well, there's no point in me actually
you
wasting
couldn't
money.
sustain that. Yeah.
It was just a waste of money, and it was super loud. I think I've had it. I've gotten the video before and played it. It's just this loudest, because it's got two fans, one at the front and one at the back. One sucks and one blows, so it's a flow through design, and it pumps out 1,500 watts of heat. So it's like it's like a very strong hairdryer, you know, well, or a small room heater, you know, a little fan heater, running 24/7 and making a lot of noise doing it. So my
Drive me
cars,
crazy. Yeah.
well, the cars in the garage in winter loved it because they were nice and toasty warm. You know, it was lovely in the garage. But anyway, that's really interesting. Hey, on that note, we've probably, I think this is a personal best for us. We've blasted through to after 11 o'clock.
To 10. Oh, is it?
No, yeah, it's 11 past 11.
It is 11. Yes,
it is.
I can see. Yes,
it's late.
Oh,
So
yes, it is late.
So we've done very well.
Yeah.
I don't have to drive to Perth in the morning, so that's fine.
Well, as you go north, you lose daytime when you go north. Anyway, that doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
But
No, not enough anyway.
No, you got to
well,
go
good
south.
night, everybody. That was interesting.
Good night,
Yes.
Carmen. On that note, before I go, I'd just like to have a shout out to Ashley. Shout out to Elon for watching. Thank you very much. To Damon. Not sure what colour your car is today, but it could be watermelon or it could be burnt orange. Shout out to Joe and Seb, Joseph, and everyone else that watches. If you're watching and enjoyed it, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And on that note, thank you everyone for participating. It's been another wonderful session. Please look after yourselves, and we'll see you next week.
Have a nice week.
Pete,
Yep.
Sorry,
a quick post.
you almost thought you were done, but no. So I googled the personal. It's called personal use asset.
Yes.
And so it's got to be used or kept mainly for personal use or enjoyment. So the idea is that you must have bought your crypto specifically for personal purchases of goods.
Yes.
So exactly what you were saying, to buy a Cybertruck.
Lots of pizzas.
Lots of Papa John's pizzas, yeah. And this must have been your intention when you bought it. So right through to when you spend it, which by definition should be a very short period of time. If you bought it or hold for a while and then decide to spend it, this doesn't count because it wasn't personal use from day one. The best analogy is to think of your spending and savings bank accounts. In your spending account, money goes in and is spent very soon after, while your savings account is for any money you plan to hold for a while. So with crypto assets that appear on briefly in your spending account before being spent and never touch your savings account can be personal use assets. So so there's a time period.
Yeah. So if it was an inadvertent capital gain, because you didn't mean it, but it just happened while it just was in your wallet for a little while, they're not going to make you work out that gain. But if you held onto it for a long time and then it accumulated,
How long is a long time?
Yeah, I don't
That's
think it's
subjective.
defined. Yeah, it's subjective. And
when it goes to court, like if the ATO says something and you disagree, you go to a judge and you say, well, Your Honour, I think a long time ought to be 1,000,000 years. And His Honour goes, no, but you would have been dead for 998,000 years or whatever. That's not really that true. A long time should be 2 years. Or you may say a short time is a few weeks, a couple of months, maybe 6 months if you forgot about it. A bit like saying, if you had a $50 note in your wallet, how long would you expect it to be in your wallet for before you sort of used it? And, you know, depending on who you are, you'd say between a few minutes and a few weeks or something. So
Well, maybe you just have to find a case, a precedence.
no,
to
all I got to
quote-
do is not sell my Bitcoin. If I don't actually sell it, it has no real value. Well,
Well, that's what Elon Musk does. So with his shares, he
Yes.
never sells his shares, and if he wants to buy something, he just takes out a loan against the value of the shares. So, but yeah, no, I think the whole purpose of that exemption was for currencies. So
Yeah.
the idea is, let's say you're going for a holiday to the US, so you've changed your Australian dollars for your US dollars, and if you happen to make a capital gain by the time you buy your ice cream in New York, well, surely that, you know, that's not a capital gains tax event.
Well, what
So-
about what
nor
about
is a
the
loss.
fact that
And nor
but
is a loss.
but if you wanted to go traveling, we've had COVID, so you haven't been able to go. So that's
Ah.
extended.
and that could be true too. So there could be that sort of circumstance where it's subjective, but
And circumstances could change. You may have planned for a trip,
I had,
you know,
yeah.
and you didn't want to spend you didn't want to have your Australian dollars in a particular currency. You wanted to have it in a international currency that you could,
crypto. Yep.
yeah, which is an international borderless currency. Yeah, plans have changed. You weren't able to travel, or you know, what have you.
So that would be an ideal case to argue that, yes, I kept my Bitcoins for 2 years, but it's because I intended to use them while I was traveling. COVID stopped that. I couldn't travel for 2 years. And then a judge would probably say, well, that's a reasonable argument, and he or she will accept that. So yeah, that's a good one. That's not my case.
How long have you had it?
A couple of years.
Oh, that's not long.
No, but look, like I said, I only did it just for fun. It was for the technical interest in seeing this thing working, and in one sense creating value.
But you need to see it through to see how it works when you sell and where you sell it. So you need to go and spend it in Europe.
Well, no. Well, I do hope
when you can.
No, but I do hope that the Bitcoin is worth. Well, I've only got like roughly half a Bitcoin. So once Bitcoin hits 300,000 Australian dollars, it would be an interesting exercise to buy a Cybertruck with half a Bitcoin.
Well, I don't know about 150,000, but it's not inconceivable for it to reach 100,000. So double in price from here in a fairly, you know, within a year or two. Yeah. And I mean, it may then come right back to 20 or 30 and then, you know, go for another cycle. But yeah, it's not inconceivable. That's for sure. It's happened many times before.
Do you remember the password?
Oh, no, I do, because
the private key.
Yeah. What it is they give you 15 words. I think it's 15 words.
Oh, mnemonic phase.
Yeah.
Phrase.
So when I actually, and this is another little note for anyone that wants to get into Bitcoin, not that I'd recommend you buy any, but if you mind some or whatever, is I upgraded phones. So I use Bread as the app to hold my wallet, and they make you write down this passphrase and they do tell you, they scare you to say that you can't write it down, you've got to memorize it or something, you can't have a record of it because that gives access to your what's the name. So anyway, I had taken a record of it, obviously, or thankfully, obviously. And when I changed phones, the actual wallet, even I thought it would be it was in the secure enclave of the phone, so it didn't transfer onto the next phone. So I had to rebuild the wallet. So what happens is you've got to put in this 15-word passphrase, and then it resynchronizes, and it's got to do this over the internet, and it takes hours. So initially I had no Bitcoin, and I thought, have I lost it? Did the wallet work? Was it the correct one? And then slowly it sort of said, oh, you know, you've got 0.001 of a Bitcoin and 0.002, and it tells you what date it had synchronized to. And I think I'd finished in 2017. So it's probably 3 years ago now, or 2018, when I stopped, because my power bill was huge and Bitcoin wasn't worth that much. And I sort of thought, well, that's not very clever. I've sort of learned how to turn $2,000 of electricity into barely $2,000 of Bitcoin. And it's like, big deal. That's not making money. But I just held on to it. And at the moment, it's kind of a
working.
money. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for how long it does that, who knows? And they could 10 bag, maybe. But yeah, that's not personal finance. Like I said, I would never put real money into it personally. But I just put.
No, it's one that hasn't appealed to me. But so I bought some Cathy Wood shares because she's got one. she has some Bitcoin.
Yes,
she's got Bitcoin in a couple of her funds.
Yeah.
She buys it through the
Coinbase.
No. She buys it through a ETF. What's it called? I can't think of it now, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit late.
Yeah, cool. Well, on that note, actually, speaking of late, we're even better off. We've even broken our record now. So thanks for a little postscript there, Pete.
Sorry.
Everyone take care, and we'll see you next week. It was great.
Fantastic.
Fun.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.
See ya.